The first person Loki ever saw was his dear friend, Aisya. He remembers opening his eyes and feeling empty and void. But just as soon as he saw Aisya, things took a quick turn. Aisya easily became his companion and guide. She was the one who oriented him about the strange place he had found himself in. They were at an orphanage with many other kids. Loki soon gets to discover with Aisya at his side that the director of the orphanage is scary whenever he gets mad, and bread is better when dipped in soup. Aisya teaches him how to read and write so he can learn of the outside world. She can't step outside into that outside world herself because she has an illness. Aisya loves to draw, but that's not all. There's something magical about her paintings. With time, people in need stream their way towards Aisya and her magical paintings. A sick bride gets healed. A farmer who had lost his leg sprouts a new one. An honest man who lost his earnings gets a bubble of more. News of her miracle abilities spread across the continent, and people come from far and wide. Aisya is happy helping people, and Loki is happy as long as Aisya is happy. But there are some moments she expects and anticipates Loki to tell her she's getting carried away. Of course, if love-struck Loki feels that's what she needs to hear, then sure. They both talk about living in a house together someday like the one in a painting. She also shares how the other kids feel she's a creep for having such abilities. But at least she has Loki. Loki, who will calm her down during thunderstorms and hold her hand till she falls asleep. On a fateful day when they're asleep, a man barges into their room and grabs Aisya by her neck in a fit of rage. He lashes out at her that it's her fault that his wife and kids are dead. Loki tries to pry her off the man, but soon realizes something is off. It's like he's air and can't get a solid grip of her. He takes Aisya's assault for him to realize that he was Aisya's sketch all along, a figment of her imagination. While she rests, he expresses regret that he wasn't able to protect her. News reaches the director that the man from last night had been seen in a state of despair from the last incident. He's been muttering the same thing since last night, that a monster from Aisya's painting killed his wife and children. The director announces that the man will be talking to the military police. He then goes into the room to check on Aisya. She is curled up in her bed and badly in tears. To think all she wanted to do was help people, and yet now someone had been harmed. The director encourages her to keep going as her paintings have indeed helped a lot of people. He tells her to consider what Loki would say. She replies that she can hear him at the moment telling her to keep going. Loki, who is right by her side, strongly disagrees. He wants her to be happy, but he also wants her to stop painting for people. The director announces that safety has to be of utmost importance. He has news that she will soon be adopted by an aristocrat, and it would give him peace of mind knowing that she is about to be somewhere safe. He takes her into a hug and tells her that he's going to miss her, but she should know that she's going to a better place now. Loki overhears some people discussing how the director intentionally allowed the man from the previous day to trespass. There's a prevailing belief that he might have sold her off to eliminate both her and her peculiar paintings, aiming to get rid of any potential trouble. Aisya and the invisible Loki arrive at the aristocrat's mansion. He welcomes them with an open hand, promising to embrace her and her paintings warmly. Aisya stands in awe, captivated by the sheer size and beauty of the mansion. The aristocrat warmly assures her that she is now part of their world, and can freely embrace the opulence around her. With bubbling excitement, he leads her to what seems like a room of promise, only for a plot twist to unfold. It turns out to be an unsettling blend of a hospital and a prison. Swiftly, he handcuffs her with a chain securely anchored to the floor bed. The atmosphere takes a sinister turn, as he calmly informs her of a new regimen. She'll be fed twice a day and be expected to paint for him. In an eerie revelation, he acknowledges her unique painting style, fueled by her own blood. To accommodate this, he boasts of arrangements with blood banks and provisions for transfusions as needed. Unfolding his grand plan, he asserts that she is his key to bringing joy to many, painting a troubling picture of a life now dictated by his ambitions. Poor Aisya doesn't even bother putting up a fight. She grabs her picture of Loki, whispering that everything is okay because she has him. Her face, though, tells a different story, tears and pain taking over. Loki has no choice but to hold her tight. Suddenly, Loki can't hold it back. He blurts out, "I hate humans." Can't blame him after all that Aisya's been through, after all. It hangs in the air, this sharp truth about a world that has just turned too harsh. Over at a nearby bar, folks are buzzing about a fresh discovery. A new body found in the neighborhood, the talk of the town. Seems like there's a trend. Dead bodies popping up like unwelcome guests in the cocoon. Strangest part? No blood left in them. Whispers are making the rounds that some kind of monster is on a spree, yet not everyone is buying into the monster talk. One person in the bar stands firm. Monsters? Nah, can't be. To him, it's just a wild tale, no room for creatures in the real world. In the midst of their chatter, a group spots a figure in a hood lugging around a suspiciously large object. Curiosity kicks in and one of them pipes up, asking where this hooded individual is headed with that hefty thing. No response. Getting a bit wary, a man lays a hand on the cloaked stranger's shoulder, tossing out a friendly caution about the rumored monster prowling around. Well, that doesn't sit right with the hooded one. Instantly, he gets all defensive, giving the guy a shove, snapping that he shouldn't be touched. Loki steps into the woods, keeping his vow to Aisya to eliminate the monsters born from her creations. The bar talk echoes in his mind. Those lifeless bodies, drained of blood. A secret orchestration only he holds. In the midst of the forest, his attention is seized by an eerie presence. A mysterious man cloaked in a sinister aura catches Loki's watchful eye. The stranger bears cryptic markings on his forehead, adding an extra layer of intrigue to this secluded encounter in the heart of the woods. A woman kneels, desperately pleading for her life, as the mysterious man torments her with sinister gestures and demands justification for her survival. Enter Loki, brusquely instructing her to step aside so he can intervene. Unfazed, the mysterious man questions Loki's heroics, asserting he never invited assistance. Undeterred, the man observes Loki's apparent lack of emotional response to the unfolding horror. Curious, he points out a monstrous creation spawned from what people label as the Witch's paintings. Seemingly unfazed, Loki remains stoic. The mysterious man spills the unsettling details. He stumbled upon the monstrous creation at a cabin, where it had claimed the life of an old man. Rather than disposing of it, he decided to make an unusual pact, considering the creature a bizarre blend of pet and business partner. The catch, figuring out how to sustain it, given its peculiar appetite for copious amounts of blood. As the truth unfolds, the connection between the monster and the lifeless bodies scattered about the area starts to piece together. Mocking Loki, the mysterious man ridicules his ability to uncover the truth about the monster's feeding habits. Unfazed, Loki identifies the creature from sheet number 20, initially drawn by Aisya as a harmless spider for pest control in a rose garden. The man laughs disdainfully, dismissing it as a mere pest controller, and highlighting the creature's immortality for more significant purposes. Amidst the sinister laugh, Loki draws his sword, taking a determined stance. The painting, resistant to tearing or dissolution in water, proves a formidable challenge. Yet with swift precision, Loki manages to eliminate both the painting and the man, displaying a cold resolve fueled by his belief that humans are nuisances without a hint of remorse. Before then, Aisya unveiled the grim reality. People have dubbed her creations the Witch's monstrous paintings. Those who received her art transformed into the Eye of Envy, harnessing its power for malevolent purposes. Now blame is unjustly placed on what they call the Witch's Curse, tarnishing Aisya's creations with an undeserved reputation. In a heartfelt moment, Aisya discloses her preference to wait till the end, but time isn't on her side. She takes up her painting brush, dipping it into her blood for the first time, and carefully paints over Loki's sketch. With a tear, she sends it into the wind, making her sole wish that Loki burns down all of her creations tainted by evil. Fast forward 109 springs later, Loki stands at Aisya's grave, fulfilling her wish and his promise. He carries a frame slung about his back, a tool to track down the monsters born from those paintings and imprison them. The scene starts off with Loki at a place called the Vinculum Company. It's some sort of marketplace with a large number of people buying and selling stuff. Someone notices there's a number 4 engraved on Loki's earrings. It means he's from Section 4, which is rather unknown. The Vinculum Company has 4 sectors. Sector 1 is deliveries, Sector 2 is sales, and Sector 3 is manufacturing. Tucked away in the corners of Rumorville, there's this not-so-famous Sector 4, aka the company cleaners. They're like the unsung heroes, dealing with everything from regular jobs to supernatural shenanigans. Now, not everybody knows about them, but there's this buzz that the folks might be a bit eccentric, you know? The rumor mill's got stories saying they're not afraid to bring in some colorful characters, maybe even a few who've dabbled in less than lawful professions and immortals. In reality, Sector 4 is no myth. Loki casually approaches the receptionist, requesting a connection. A moment later, he finds himself on the phone, dialing into a recorded message welcoming him to Sector 4 of the Vinculum Company. Identifying himself, Loki inquires about Saxon's availability. As Loki dials in, a different voice answers, explaining that the boss is currently engrossed in business negotiations, and is expected back in approximately a week. Loki, seizing the opportunity, briefs the secretary on the circulating rumors about Section 4. In response, the secretary reveals that the boss did indeed leave a message for him. There's a craftsman the boss wants him to visit along the way. Loki approaches a house and asks the maids gathered if Mike Fisher is home. A beautiful woman descends the stairs and asks what business Loki has with her husband. Loki recalls the rest of the conversation with the boss's secretary. Deliveries are running low from a dollmaker that the boss used to manage back when he was in Sector 1, so the higher-ups figured it's a perfect case for Sector 4 to handle. The boss specifically wants Loki to handle the case. The last note is that there's a chance the case is related to the bloody paintings. Nearly every traveler who passes by this craftsman's mansion ends up being saved by him after getting injured. Loki takes on the job. He must burn down all the bloody paintings. There's nothing more to it. Loki asks the woman directly where her husband, Mike Fisher, is. She starts to reply when a hysterical man rushes down the stairs and asks Emma, his wife, why she is down here, when she should be resting. She states that she just wanted to get some water, but Mike insists that's what maids are for. She then solemnly agrees to head back upstairs as her husband wishes. Loki dives into questioning mode, first confirming he is indeed Mike Fisher, and asking why his shipments have been running late. Mike replies he hasn't made anything worth shipping and it might take even longer. Loki asks a second question, if he is aware of the witch's paintings. Mike claims he's heard about the rumors from his father as a little kid. There are 159 paintings in total. The bloody paintings are a collection of blood-red works painted by Aisia, who is now unfortunately being referred to as a witch. Her paintings are known to bring miracles that defy natural laws, but to him, the paintings are a legend and fairy tale, and he's surprised the Vinculum Company would want to involve themselves with such. Loki clarifies he's just here to supervise Mike finishing his dolls. Mike poses that won't be a problem. He welcomes Loki to make use of any of the spare rooms as he's getting used to a lot of travelers stopping by. Extending a welcome to Loki, Mike sets 2 conditions: pitching in with house chores and keeping quiet about Emma's health. Loki, curious, inquires about Emma's condition, and Mike reluctantly admits she's too unwell to leave the house. Eager to steer away, Mike shifts the conversation, assigning Loki the task of clearing some grass. Yet in a sudden twist as Loki's back turns, Mike's sickle edges a bit too close. Loki nimble dodges it, and with a flimsy excuse, Mike claims his hand slipped. After the incident, Mike leads Loki to his room. Loki notices a surplus of maids, and Mike explains he hired them all when his wife fell ill. Indicating Emma's room at the end of the hall on the 2nd floor, Mike mentions Loki can check on her. As Mike departs, Loki, still adjusting, narrowly dodges a falling chandelier. Unbeknownst to him, a maid orchestrated the perilous drop, aiming straight for him. As Loki tries to make sense of it all, he questions another maid about previous human travelers in the house. To his surprise, he discovers that all the maids are mute for some reason. Eventually, Loki locates Emma's room, where a haunting familiarity washes over him. The bed-ridden posture, the hospital drip. It is reminiscent of Aisia in a fleeting moment. Emma, upon spotting Loki, recognizes him, and warmly inquires if he's come to keep her company. Eager to extend hospitality, she suggests making him a cup of tea. However, Loki, ever direct, cuts to the chase. He asks Emma straight up if she's aware of the witch's paintings. Emma, puzzled, questions if Loki is here to share tales about the witch's paintings. Realizing the futility of that line of inquiry, Loki smoothly transitions to the next question. He inquires if Emma has any insight into why her husband's doll shipments are delayed. This news catches Emma off guard. With conviction, she asserts her belief that her husband toils throughout the day and retreats to the doll room at night. According to him, the funds from the doll sales are utilized to hire and compensate the numerous maids they have. Emma expresses her sincere apologies for not being in the loop about her husband's activities. She explains the communication gap, citing her husband's perpetual busyness and her own health issues. To Loki, it raises suspicions that Mike might be intentionally confining her. Emma defends him, attributing it to his perceived tactlessness. Reminiscing about their past, she recalls their love story, a chance meeting when Mike was a puppeteer with a traveling troupe, and she lived in a grand mansion. It was a classic tale of love at first sight, a romance defying social boundaries between the affluent and the less privileged. Moved by love, Emma left her opulent life to join Mike. In the early days, they faced financial hardships, struggling to put food on the table, before Mike's puppetry gained recognition. She was happy to be at his side. The story brings memories of Aisia to Loki. He soon takes a quick leave. In the doll room, Mike reflects on a haunting conversation with the physician who delivered the grim news about his wife's limited time. Initially resistant to the diagnosis, Mike brushed it off as a common cold, unable to fathom a more severe prognosis. The physician, however, remained steadfast, warning that Emma's time might be running out. A maid timidly approaches Mike, reporting her unsuccessful attempt to harm Loki. Mike dismisses her account, uninterested in the details, and directs her to a more pressing task, collecting blood from Loki, a ritual she's apparently performed on other travelers in the past. Given her failed first attempt, Mike insists that she must try again. Undeterred, the maid leaves, this time armed with a knife, heading toward Loki's bed. To her surprise, she doesn't find him sleeping. She finds an empty bed. Simultaneously, Loki, having made his way to the doll room, confronts Mike about the recurring attempts on his life, and questions his sinister purpose behind collecting travelers' blood. The mystery deepens as Loki seeks answers from Mike, 12 times in total. The first kill attempt was Mike himself, and the rest were from maids, which Loki has gotten to understand are a blood painting. He warns Mike that the painting is bound to reach its limit. The maids need blood to stay alive, and it's only a matter of time before they lose control and go on a rampage. Mike argues Loki doesn't understand, and is acting all high and mighty. But Loki's prediction comes to pass as the maids are already headed up the stairs to attack dear Emma. Swift on his feet, Loki intervenes with the Absolution Frame's second form, thwarting the maids in close quarters. The threat is neutralized. Loki discerns that the painting manipulated the dolls, contorting its malleable form into their joints. Recognizing the painting as number 24, titled The Marionette's Love, Loki connects the dots back to a story Aisya conjured up, a marionette in love with its puppeteer brought to life by the tears of its beloved. At first, the man who received the painting was happy when his doll came to life, but he was soon dissatisfied and started creating more. The painting eventually started demanding blood, and those miraculous tears have evolved to the chaos on their hands now. In the name of the witch, Loki seals the mutilated painting within his frame. Mike, unhappy with the unfolding events, laments his need for the dolls. Irritated, Loki questions why humans endowed with free will chose to live as dolls. Emma, breaking the tension, boldly asks Mike if he regrets marrying her, given their current disconnected state. Emma reflects on the evolution from extravagant walks in the gardens to a plethora of ostentatious furniture. At times, Emma felt like a solitary inhabitant in their mansion. Mike counters, expressing that nothing he does seems to be enough. He acknowledges the gap between the ideal and the reality of their marriage, admitting that he believed building a perfect future would mend her unhappiness. Constantly haunted by the idea that Emma married beneath her, taking her away from a grand lifestyle, Mike grapples with the weight of unmet expectations. In a touching moment, Emma raises 2 fingers, asking Mike if he recalls the significance of the gesture. The scene takes a trip down memory lane, recounting Emma's past engagement to a man she didn't love, part of an arranged marriage orchestrated by her father who viewed women as mere commodities. It was during that challenging period that Mike first made the 2-finger scissors gesture, symbolizing his commitment to severing her ties with anything she didn't want. Blushing, Emma playfully asks if this was his unconventional way of proposing, confessing that he was the one she truly loved. The sweet reminiscence adds a tender layer to their complicated history. Done with the drama that came with the blood-painting spider, Loki makes his way back to the headquarters. To cut his journey short, he uses an abandoned highway that leads straight to the headquarters. On this path, he runs into 2 townsmen rambling on about how it's dangerous for them to be out there. Something about a monster that just targets merchants. As they go on with the hopes of finding someone able to show the way, they meet Loki. Deducing from his insignia, they let out sighs of relief as they realize they've just run into the person they desperately sought for. His insignia shows that he's from the Vinculum Company, and they had arrangements with the company. Nevertheless, Loki is in the dark as he has no clue what they're on about. This results in both parties confused. The townsmen introduce themselves as guards from the Tanida Village. At the village, there have been a string of horrific murders and robberies along the old highway they were on. From the incidents, the village deduces that the victims have been solely merchants. With this, the village sought to ask the company with the greatest merchants on the continent, Vinculum, for help on the matter. The air gets flooded with the doubt and confusion between both parties. The townsmen couldn't help but wonder if they've got the right person as a result of how confused and reluctant Loki looked. Loki, on the other hand, was confused as he didn't get any orders from the company to help a village in such matters. Another thing that fueled the townsmen's doubt was the fact that the company said they would be sending in 2 merchants to the village. Hearing that the mission required 2 persons, Loki wondered who the second person could likely be. Almost immediately, Loki is ambushed by someone swift, skilled, and in handcuffs. As expected, Loki is able to block the attack and regain control of the situation. In a familiar tone, the attacker asks if he's gotten stronger, since he was able to easily block the attack. The crazy handcuffed attacker is Taoyuan, the White Lightning, a member of the Vinculum Company's Sector 4 just like Loki, and in fact, the second merchant assigned on the mission. The awkward, unexpected, and dangerous introduction is followed by a subtler yet condescending introduction, as Taoyuan introduces the duo as the company's response to the village's request. Taoyuan as the White Lightning, currently undergoing rehabilitation after 10 years of extensive pickpocketing, and Loki, whom he described as the taciturn, utterly expressionless, bloody painting junkie. These 2 would go on to solve the village's problem. As any normal human would react to trusting their lives in the hands of a junkie and a 10-year pickpocket, they murmur in doubt, and manage to utter words that question why Taoyuan had handcuffs on. In a playful manner which his character is centered around, he asks them to ignore the handcuffs, explaining that the cuffs are just there to stop him from compulsively stealing things, a sort of self-imposed punishment. To buttress what he had just led on, Taoyuan apologizes to Loki for being late, and informs him that the boss has asked them to take care of this one together. But at the same time, he sneaks an item off of Loki. Of course, Loki noticed, as he asks Taoyuan to give back what he just stole. Taoyuan apologized for it, blaming it on undying old habits, adding that he's supposed to be reformed, or at least reforming. All this playful and irresponsible banter and display was happening right in front of the townsmen, feeding them more reasons to doubt that the merchants are their help, and the assistance the village sought from the company. With little to no choice, they realize that the duo is the only chance they've got, and they have no one else to turn to. And so they lead the duo to the village with the hopes of putting an end to the grisly corpses piling up on their hands. Hearing the corpses were grisly piqued Loki's interest for some reason, and with that, they set out to the village with much anticipation. On getting to the village, they meet a dreadful sight, as dead bodies, or should I say half-dead bodies, hang from trees, and are scattered everywhere, numbering more than the alive humans. The attack happened for the 5th time, leaving the merchants in half and the cargo missing. The guards inform the mayor that the duo, the representatives from the Vinculum Company, have arrived. The mayor welcomes them with gratitude to their response, as the village had sent a request to the Sacred Mecenat asking for help, but the organization is busy. On inquiry, the mayor explains the situation to the two, informing them that the guards are currently taking down the corpses, or at least the halves of the bodies, as the top halves are all missing, with their legs bound specifically. They both analyze the situation, and deduce from how noticeable the spot is that the person or people responsible for the deaths is either extremely confident or flaunting their body count. If a bandit wants to operate in an area, hiding the bodies would be the go-to option, but such isn't the case here. So it's safe to assume that the bodies were placed intentionally. When the guards see how meticulous and skilled the duo is with their investigation, they begin to have a higher view of Loki and Taoyuan, one a lot better than the impression they had earlier. Considering that the cargo was stolen, Taoyuan realizes there must be a fair number of humans involved and a bloody painting. Loki's field of expertise. Leaving Loki to thrive in his field, Loki deduces from the looks of things cutting off the torso of victims is important to the bloody painting, and judging by the wounds, the attacks they should look out for are likely saw-like ones. Also, since there were no footprints lying around, the bloody painting likely has the ability to fly. Taoyuan marvels at the skill and experience with which Loki figured out all the information they have. While at it, Taoyuan discusses with Loki, revealing that Saxon told him that the odd jobs that the Sector 4 does for the company is just a cover. Their true objective is to recover all the bloody paintings, and as fate would have it, it was Taoyuan's first bloody painting job, so he encourages Loki to do their best. The bro moment is soon interrupted as a girl is stopped by the guards even though she was asking to see her father. Curious, they ask the guards who her father is, and find out that she happens to be the sole survivor of the caravan. She was found unconscious and on the verge of a breakdown. The girl gets to one of the bodies and gets on her knees, crying and vowing to never forgive the monster. Watching all this carefully, Loki asks her to tell him everything that happened. The girl began her tragic story, telling them that it all happened in the blink of an eye. A monster floating right there, completely coated in black with vicious teeth. When she met its gaze, her body was suddenly struck by a strong force. She also adds that if she hadn't been thrown under the carriage, her life would have been lost as well. After this horrid tale, she asks them frantically to take her with them, even if it means using her as bait. She would do anything to avenge her father, and she was ready to go through hell. Taoyuan tries to calm her down, assuring her that they would never use her as bait. Loki, on the other hand, is on board the bait plan, and agrees in an instant, as his sole drive is to collect the bloody paintings at all costs. Meanwhile, in the camp of evil and vile, they goof around, appreciating the loot and the killings they'd been doing. The jesting even goes as far as to fantasize copulation, and even wanting to try copulating with the doll. Back at the village, the mayor shows them into the guest house arranged for the duo. Loki then asks if the persons that tended to the girl's wounds saw his symbol anyway on her body. When he gets a negative response, he crosses off the possibility that she is the bloody painting's owner. Taoyuan focuses on the girl's well-being, offering his condolences and assuring her that her father is happy she is safe, despite his death. Loki meets up with them and asks if anything strange happened before she lost consciousness. At that time, the Sacred Mecenat shows up almost like it was timed. The curator approaches the mayor, offering his apology for showing up late. And after the apology came the self-praise, as he goes on about the principles of the Mecenat, as he reiterates that their task is to preserve all the good things like culture, ideology, language, nature, life, and all beautiful things. The curator adds that they would take care of the remains of the merchants and deal with the bandits. Upon realization, Taoyuan draws the conclusion that there might not be much for the duo to do on this mission, adding that he's been seeing a lot of the Sacred Mecenat lately. The organization started when the curators took up arms in order to protect an ancient tower called Babel at the center of the continent. They then developed into an organization that provides free philanthropic work, thanks to the funding of like-minded aristocrats. The Sacred Mecenat became a voice all across the continent, asking for help and a savior. Suddenly, the girl notices a man in the crowd she recognizes from just before she blacked out during the ambush. The reason the caravan stopped, according to her, is because the man was laying dead in front of the carriage and had collapsed. The suspicious man made his way away from the bunch, but Loki didn't have much time to play, so he pursues after the man. Taoyuan tries to get Loki to stay collected and composed, so he wouldn't do anything that would survive on the intercom. The girl tries to stop Taoyuan, who buys her act of sadness for a short while, at least until she shows her green knife and shirts and skirts. Unexpectedly, the girl tries a jab with a knife at Taoyuan, but he luckily barely dodged it. The attack is so precise that he only dodged by some inches, as it was as close to his eye as his other eye is. The girl takes off her glasses and drops the innocent and frail act, welcoming them to the real, true, and evil side she resides in. Also, the location they were at now had her goons and minions surrounding the area completely. Even Taoyuan recognizes that he's been cornered and outnumbered. The difference in numbers doesn't faze him, and trusting his strength, he uses Absolution Frame first form. Doing so, he clears the bulk of the girl's allies, still with cuffs on. Soon enough, Loki shows up and questions the girl on where the bloody painting is. In a mischievous tone, the girl mocks him, and tells him how sad it is he hasn't noticed yet. There was no bloody painting. The assault group mimicked a bloody painting incident as bait to get him to show up. Curious, Loki asks what she wants from him, but she answers in the same tone, urging him to use his head to figure it out. As Loki and the girl continue their banter, Taoyuan and the others face off and finish the small fries. After an encounter between Loki and the girl, Loki puts her in her place in no time, but there's a twist. Holding his blade close to her throat, she uses it to cut through her chest, causing the blood to gush in Loki's face. Just as any bloody painting, the blood affected him, as he thirsts for more. And this is just what she wanted to achieve. She knows that he as a bloody painting cannot stand blood. In a bid to get away from her and recompose himself, he uses Absolution Frame Restraint Form to trap her, and deal with his increasing desire for blood. Next, the Sacred Mecenat shows up, announcing that they're here to capture the bandits. Before the Sacred Mecenat acted, Loki tries to get information from the girl, but she shuts him out in suspense and bids him farewell, assuring that they will meet again. After this, he successfully suppresses his thirst for blood and his wounds vanish, along with the girl. So they head back into the village, but Taoyuan is curious as to how the wounds healed and where the girl went. At the village, they're met with gratitude and honor for not only taking care of the bandits, but finding a map to their hideout, something Taoyuan happened to subconsciously steal off of one of the bandits. The village guards head out to the hideout and find loads of treasure and valuables, but something among the pile struck Loki. A doll that looked like Aisya. Meanwhile, the girl gets to her safe space and tends to her wound, disappointed at herself for not killing the redhead, which would be Loki. It also turns out that the girl is a curator, under the umbrella, vision, and objective of the Sacred Mecenat, one being dealing with Loki harshly for burning up the witch's legacy. As Loki stumbles upon the doll, he takes a closer look and sees the uncanny resemblance the doll has. Surprisingly, when he touches this unique doll, it comes alive, transforming into a young girl who looks just like the witch, but with no memory of Loki or who she is. Out of sheer shock, Loki mutters Aisya's name in disbelief that his creator could be right in front of him. The excitement is shattered when the girl asks who Aisya is. The village guards gather around trying to understand what their eyes are witnessing. The doll, now alive on the other hand, wondered where she is and also her name. With all these developments, they return to the town to report their findings and the girl. Since the girl couldn't remember anything but she's valuable to the Vinculum Company, the duo takes her into their care. They bid the townsmen farewell and head to the company's headquarters. On getting to the headquarters, Taoyuan reassures the girl that the company's sector is looking for her parents, and the Sector 4, them, are going to help her regain her memories. In no time, they get to the Sector 4 headquarters where they find the rest of the crew. The duo is greeted by their boss, Saxon, leader of the 4th sector of the Vinculum Company. He is also curious about the girl, so he asks what her name is. She replies to the question by showing him a tag she was holding when she woke up, bearing the name Liche. Introducing herself as Liche, Saxon welcomes her to the sector's headquarters, and introduces himself as the sector leader. While all this went on, Loki isn't a fan of the girl bearing Aisya's looks, and carrying her voice with no recollection of him or the witch herself. All this made him feel distraught. With introductions made, Saxon informs Liche that the sector will have to give her a quick medical checkup, assuring her not to worry and watch her steps. Saxon continues informing her about how the sector runs and their goal. The sector tracks the witch's bloody paintings from their base, and the goal is to gather all the bloody paintings. Liche is clueless about bloody paintings, and when Saxon senses it, he explains the concept of the paintings. The bloody paintings are special paintings created by a certain girl. There are said to be about 159 paintings in the world, and the sector plans to collect all of them. He continues briefing her on how these miraculous paintings turn into things of evil, darkness, and death. Humans always want more, and they wished for something beyond a miracle. The paintings were forced over their limits by those desires, and grew thirsty for blood. If these paintings taste even a single drop of blood, they are transformed into a tool of destruction fueled by it, and they can never return to the miraculous paintings they once were. Or that's what they all thought at the time. Done with his abrupt explanation and not expecting Liche to understand so quickly, they get to the lobby where they are almost shot at by another member of the sector. Here, Lee Chae gets to meet the remaining members of the sector present at the headquarters. One of the other members, a female, teases him about the uncanny resemblance Lee Chae has of Aisha, asking him how it makes him feel. This gets Loki upset, and made him keep glaring at her. The exact thing she couldn't get enough of. Saxon breaks up the squabble and asks Loki to go seal the newly acquired blood painting at the headquarters. He asks the girl to fix the wall they blew off, and for the rest, Saxon asks to speak with Lee Chae and Taoyuan in his lab. But they soon realize that Lee Chae was gone. She had followed Loki to the dungeon the bloody paintings were kept. Loki seals the bloody painting and puts it out of its misery before noticing his unexpected company, Lee Chae. He asks her what she's doing down there, and she explains that she's just curious as to who this person she looks like is. She then asks him if he knows her, adding that he called her Aisha when they first met. This causes an outburst of frustration as Loki shouts at her to stop, admitting that the resemblance is sickening, and the fact that Lee Chae was staring at him like a stranger but with the eyes of Aisha messes with his mind. He also adds that he would spare no mercy if Lee Chae is a bloody painting that assumed Aisha's form. This makes Lee Chae feel bad, wondering what she said or did to make Loki scarily angry. As she cries, teardrops fall on the painting he had just sealed, causing the signature and blood to clean off. In a bid to fix the damage she made, she draws the signature on with her tears. And when she did this, the miraculous painting that the monster was initially came to life. She reversed the transformation bloody paintings go through, something thought impossible until now. She plays with her new friend, but the fun is cut short by one of the sector members looking for her to run tests. The sector members tease her, saying they're going to drain every single last drop of blood in her body. Hearing this spooked her as expected, and causes her new birdie friend to attack the sector member. A window of escape opens up from this, and Lee Chae and the creature make a run for it. As they got away, the sector member realizes that the bird is actually a bloody painting, making it worse than he thought. He tries to get Lee Chae to come back, but she, like everyone else, doesn't want all her blood sucked out. Meanwhile, Taoyuan heads out in search of Lee Chae, and Loki walks in to report that he's done sealing the bloody paintings. Loki and Saxon talk about the Sacred Arts Foundation, the bandit group they encountered earlier. According to his findings, Saxon informs Loki that the group is secretly collecting bloody paintings, and seems to be plotting something nasty with the ones they've collected. So the group caused the incident at the village to take Loki out of the picture and stop him from destroying bloody paintings. All this is just speculation, but Saxon assures he will carry out more investigation. As for Lee Chae, nothing out of the ordinary was found, as the results were the same for an average girl of her age, making her a normal human being that looks exactly like the witch. Eventually, one of the members caught up to her, but she still ran off, and Loki and the rest had to reach her through the bloody painting. It turns out that the bloody paintings allowed people to communicate over large distances. This ability of hers to convert bloody paintings into miraculous ones baffled everyone, and after some time, they got to where she was to see for themselves. As Loki tries to take the creature away from her, Lee Chae resists in the exact manner and way Aisha reacted when she created it, and it was taken from her. This made Loki have a change of heart and spare the bloody painting, postponing the inevitable. For all the members who saw it came as a shock, and judging from all that had happened, they safely deduced that, in other words, Lee Chae is the second witch. While some Section 4 members take Lee Chae shopping, Loki watches her run through the streets, resembling his beloved Aisha. This triggers a deep memory of Aisha being confined in the mansion, asking him what the outside world looked like. Mona advises Lee Chae to stay close due to the crowded market. She plans to buy clothes and underwear first, followed by other necessities. Loki trails behind them without getting too close. Levi complains about feeling Loki's intense gaze from the distance. Heidal questions why Loki joined them if he dislikes crowds. The ever-cheerful Taoyuan expresses surprise and excitement about Loki following along to the festival. Earlier in the day, Mona asked the director if she could take Lee Chae out later that morning for a festival nearby, as she wanted to buy new clothes for Lee Chae. The director happily agreed, telling her to go ahead. When Taoyuan heard about it, he also asked for permission to accompany Mona. Levi decided to join, not wanting to miss a good sale. Heidal also joined, hoping to meet someone, possibly a beautiful lady, at the festival. When Loki arrived at the scene, he said he wanted to come along too. Heidal asked if he really meant it, and Loki explained that because Lee Chae was connected to the bloody painting, he wasn't going to let her out of his sight. At the market, Levi complained about Loki acting like a stalker, and being overly concerned about Lee Chae. Levi found it odd, since Loki kept an awkward distance, but insisted on keeping an eye on her while refusing to be friendly. Taoyuan told Levi that Loki was just shy, but Heidal disagreed, asking Taoyuan not to make excuses for him. Heidal notices Taoyuan holding a camera and wallets, and he asks where he got them. At that moment, Taoyuan realizes he impulsively stole the items without thinking. Startled, he screams, not expecting to have stolen again. The man looking for his camera prompts Taoyuan to return it, apologizing and explaining it was an accident. The man, surprisingly understanding, smiles, and tells Taoyuan not to worry about it. expressing a hobbyist liking for the camera. Taoyuan apologizes once more, then rushes off, asking people in the market if anyone had their wallets stolen so he could return them. Levi and Heidal look embarrassed, with Levi mentioning that Taoyuan coming with them is as big a mystery as Loki. They reach the clothing store and Mona shows Liche some beautiful clothes, curious about which one she prefers. Mona then asks Liche which outfit she likes. Feeling anxious, Liche confesses she can't afford any of them. However, Mona smiles and assures her not to worry, mentioning they'll deduct the cost from Loki's pay. Levi suggests Liche choose something more stylish, encouraging her to pick the cutest items now that she has the opportunity to. He then selects an elegant dress for her, while Heidal, having a contrasting view, believes that subtlety is the essence of beauty. He chooses a dress for her, insisting she go with it. Liche, struggling to decide, anxiously glances at Loki. In response, he sternly averts his gaze, causing her to feel frightened. Levi chuckles, advising Liche that worrying about Loki's reaction won't lead anywhere. Liche admits her nervousness, explaining it's because she's spending Loki's money. Levi reassures her, saying it's okay and encourages her to take the dress. While expressing disbelief that Saxon established Sector 4 just for Loki, Levi's comment catches Liche's attention. She questions if they're also collecting the bloody paintings for Loki. Levi clarifies that his reasons for joining Sector 4 is to search for someone, using the hunt for bloody paintings as a means to an end. Heidal reveals he joined Section 4 after being forced to leave his country due to a bloody painting, and now he's determined to find it. Mona clarifies she's not officially a member of Section 4, but does her best to assist. She also brings up Loki, stating that his reason for joining is quite apparent. While Mona attempts to clarify that Taoyuan recently joined, as she explains to Liche the reason, Liche's mind wanders from the conversation. It settles on reminiscing about what Saxon told her earlier, that Loki is uncertain about her because she looks so much like his beloved witch. Saxon then pleaded with her to not hold it against him. Levi notices Liche lost in thought, and asks if she is still seriously worried about what Loki thinks. He takes her to Loki, suggesting they ride a boat together. Levi tells Loki it seems like they need a chance to get along, and encourages Liche to be nice. Nervously, Liche musters the courage to talk to Loki, apologizing and explaining that she just wanted to talk. However, Loki rudely scoffs, turns away, and tells her he doesn't have anything to discuss. The girl from the painting, named Pokyu by Liche for its habit of flipping the middle finger when taunting, sees Liche feeling sad after Loki's response. Getting angry, Pokyu swiftly attacks Loki and gives him a hard slap. Loki, frustrated, grabs Pokyu's face and demands an explanation for the slap. Angrily tossing it back to Liche, Pokyu starts crying, and Liche checks if it's okay. Despite this, Pokyu taunts Loki again, further irritating him. Whilst petting it, Liche asks Pokyu why it acted out that way. Her actions reminded Loki of Aisya, who used to care for her own pet chick with bloody paintings back when she was alive, while she couldn't even see him even after he desperately wanted her to notice him standing by her side. Due to that, Loki becomes even more annoyed watching Liche pet Pokyu. In response, he swiftly grabs Pokyu and tosses it into the lake. The other members who witnessed the entire incident feel embarrassed by Loki's actions. Pokyu, upset about being thrown in the water, retaliates, launching itself at Loki, pulling both of them back into the water. Liche becomes alarmed, and Heidal has no choice but to assist by pulling the boat back to the deck. Upon exiting the boat, Liche asks what to do about Pokyu and Loki. Levi advises her to let them be, not to waste time worrying about them as they still have more shopping to do. As the rest of the Section 4 members continue walking in the market, everything around Liche suddenly freezes, people and sounds alike. Liche appears to be the only one unaffected by this unusual occurrence. The photographer descends from the hill, approaching Liche with a creepy smile, questioning why she's still moving. Liche recognizes him as the man from earlier. The man wonders if she can still move because he didn't give enough blood to the camera. He points the camera at a passerby and it changes shape, revealing teeth, biting, and taking a chunk out of the passerby's back. The photographer decides to try it again. As he takes a photo of her, she runs away. Unfortunately, her cloak gets caught in the frame, freezing her momentarily. She unbuttons the cloak and escapes, while the man chases after her with his camera. Liche hides while the man searches for her like a hunt. Fortunately, Pokyu coincidentally flies towards her and lands on the ground. Excited to see it, Liche asks where Loki is, but Pokyu pretends to not know. A call from Saxon comes through Pokyu, and Liche covers its mouth to keep it quiet. Whispering to Saxon, she explains everything that has happened. He warns her about the bloody painting's involvement, and advises her not to get caught. When Liche asks about leaving the others behind, he sadly confirms it. Liche becomes emotional, recalling the time Mona made a choker pendant from her name tag, and emphasized their bond as a family. The photographer discovers Liche's hiding spot and is about to take her photo. However, Pokyu sacrifices itself by pushing her aside, ending up in the photo itself instead. Frustrated, the photographer wonders where Pokyu came from. Eventually, he decides to ignore it and informs Liche that she is next. Liche questions why he's using the bloody painting for such a purpose, as she hears the witch created it to spread happiness. Using them like this would make the paintings sad. Suddenly, Loki rushes onto the scene, jumping in front of Liche. The photographer angrily confronts Loki for damaging his camera. Liche warns Loki not to let the man take his photo, but the man manages to capture Loki's right hand, freezing it. Loki quickly uses his sword to cut away his frozen arm and breaks into a building, running away with Liche. However, after a while, he collapses on the ground. Liche starts to worry about Loki's arm, but he reassures her not to, because if he removes the camera, his arm will come back. Seeing Liche cry, Loki notices that whenever she cries or laughs, he feels a burning sensation in the back of his throat. It's not because he's thirsty for blood, but because she resembles Aisia so much. It hurts to witness her experiencing the outside world that Aisia once yearned for. Loki explains to her that the camera is painting number 141, the magic box. Originally, it was just Aisia's sketch of what a camera looks like. While she was locked in the tower, her imagination ran wild, leading her to sketch things from books and newspapers. Before her death, she even put her blood on these simple sketches, hoping they would bring happiness to the world. Loki expresses his hatred for humans for trampling over Liche's legacy. As the man continues to search outside, Loki swiftly flings his cloak toward him, wasting no time to freeze it. Loki seizes the opportunity to run towards the man. As he does, he recalls a plan he made with Liche. He told her that despite not being very strong, she could still erase the paintings. These paintings required 3 conditions to work: Aisia's wish, signature, and blood. If any of these were missing, they would cease to function. Loki informs Liche that he will distract the man, and even if the photographer freezes him, she should focus on erasing the signature from the paintings. Luckily, Liche manages to erase the signature, thereby making the camera disappear, and everything returns to normal. Shortly after, a woman spots the man with his back injured and screams, thinking someone got stabbed. The photographer, shocked, becomes devastated, but then Loki angrily knocks him out. While having dinner at the company, Levi confesses he didn't notice anything had happened. Heidal expresses a wish to use the camera himself. They all joke about the situation, and later invite Loki to eat. Levi mentions that apparently Loki doesn't seem to eat. As Loki passes by, he remembers Aisia telling him that bread tastes better when dipped in soup. Passing on this information, they're all shocked, wondering when Loki suddenly developed an interest in food. Liche and Taoyuan take a morning stroll into town. Taoyuan expresses joy that Loki chose Liche's clothes, and Liche is pleased he returned everyone's purse. Taoyuan eagerly looks forward to rehabilitating quickly to meet his brother. Suddenly, Liche senses a presence behind her and turns around, frightened to see a giant, dog-shaped, bloody painting. After clearing her eyes, she discovers the dog has vanished, as if it were never there. After trying on her latest outfit from the market, the members of Section 4 continue praising Liche for her looks. Saxon then mentions the curious phenomenon of Liche still being able to move despite the entire village being frozen by the earlier photographer. Similar to how bloody paintings didn't affect Aisia herself, it seems the same is true for Liche. Later, the members of Section 4 receive a report about a strange illness called Ishus. According to the report, someone from Section 1 has contracted the illness, and its mode of transmission is unknown. The infected individuals display skin discoloration resembling bandages, eventually mummifying and dying once fully enveloped. There have also been sightings of a large black dog in the town, suggesting a connection between the illness and the paintings. Liche tells Saxon that she met the dog and it vanished quickly, seeming in a lot of pain. The painting asked her for help. Loki is surprised the painting reached out to Liche on its own. Liche adds that if someone is using the witch's paintings for evil again, she wants to stop them. Saxon agrees, assuring her that dealing with a painting should be manageable with both her and Loki around. He instructs her to head to the infected town with Loki. Considering Taoyuan has family there, Saxon encourages him to go, despite Loki's warnings about infection risks. Saxon then briefs them about the involvement of something called the Sacred Mecenat. With the plan set, the trio heads to the village. Upon arrival, guards prevent their entry. Loki clarifies they're from the Vinculum Company, aiming to cooperate in the investigation due to infected employees. Despite understanding the importance of Vinculum Company, the guards hesitate to grant them entry. However, when Peter, the intermediate curator, arrives, he instructs the guards to let them pass. Peter knows that Section 4 handles irregular incidents, and the mysterious illness surpasses their capabilities. He hopes their assistance in the investigation will be beneficial. In response, Loki asks Peter about the situation. Peter explains that the sickness was noticed 2 weeks earlier, just 5 days after their arrival. The infected numbers grow daily, and they've identified 4 causes within their group. He describes the most notable symptoms as skin markings, with primary signs including hemoptysis, dizziness, trembling, and nausea. The markings slowly spread, and death occurs when fully enveloped. Investigation reveals that an elevated heart rate speeds up the expansion. Upon reaching the village shelter, Taoyuan is surprised to find his brother Khan, who is in a wheelchair and also infected. Khan expresses his shock, reminding Taoyuan that he instructed him not to return until he removed the cuffs. Taoyuan explains that he couldn't ignore his brother in a time of need. In response, Khan urges Taoyuan to leave, not wanting him to witness his inevitable demise. Taoyuan approaches him, reassuring him that he won't die, and that they'll get him fixed up. Before Taoyuan can finish, Khan starts vomiting blood. Physicians rush to help him. At the same time, another woman's husband dies from the markings. The tension escalates in the center, leading Loki, Taoyuan, and Liche to be excused outside. Upon stepping outside, Taoyuan shares that he was born with excellent vision and nimble fingers. As far back as he can remember, he sustained himself through pickpocketing. These skills led him to join his family and meet his brothers, Khan and Cho. The days spent with them were always fun, and they made considerable efforts to help him reform. Despite not being blood-related, they are his family. Taoyuan earnestly implores Loki and Liche to collectively strive for a solution. Later, Taoyuan returns to see his brother Khan, who becomes irritated that Taoyuan is still around, despite being told to leave. Khan asks Loki to take Taoyuan out, and Loki agrees, mentioning he'll do so once he retrieves the painting. Taoyuan then decides to gather some information by running around. As Taoyuan leaves, Loki asks Khan if he also saw the black dog. Khan explains that he encountered the dog when he was drunk, fell down, and went to sleep. When he opened his eyes, the dog was staring at him. That incident coincided with the day he became infected. A strange drunken man shows up, demanding to know what the group is talking about. Khan complains about his persistent desire to drink despite the situation. The man, introducing himself as Seth, reveals he came to the village for alcohol but got infected. In a bizarre move, he creepily approaches Liche, licking her finger and commenting on her appearance. Liche becomes disgusted and Pokyu infuriated. The painting attempts to attack the man, but Loki holds it back. Taoyuan talks to the infected Section 1 members, and they tell him that during their mission to transport the village's alcohol to the market, a heavy rain made it difficult to walk. With people getting injured, they decided to wait a night in a shelter. While waiting, a huge shadow of a dog suddenly appeared, looking down at them. The members from Section 1 suddenly begin to panic, asking Loki if they're all going to be okay. Peter arrives at the scene, and Loki asks him if he knows what a bloody painting is, to which he admits that he does. Loki tells him that if he knows where the painting is, he should hurry up and spit it out, but the man claims to not know. If they wish to hunt for the paintings, they should do it somewhere else. A woman who appears to be eavesdropping notices that Peter is acting sneaky. Later, the team decides to organize their findings about the illness. Khan then pleads with Loki and Liche to take care of Taoyuan. Liche tells Khan not to be upset with Taoyuan because he's just concerned about him. Khan recalls how Taoyuan infiltrated an organization and taught him martial arts, while Cho guided him in manners. They freed him, but it cost Khan his legs and Cho his life. Now, Taoyuan fears being alone if anything happens to him. Khan asks Loki and Liche to be like his brothers. Liche agrees with a nod, but Loki declines. Liche decides to search for Taoyuan. As she steps outside, she encounters the shadow dog, which begs her to help it. Loki immediately pulls her back, attempting to chase the dog, but it escapes. The following day, Taoyuan reveals he's infected. When Loki inquires about the previous night, Taoyuan explains that as he walked, something yanked him from behind, rendering him unconscious before he could feel any pain. The marks on his body align with the injury location. Loki ponders why the dog consistently appears without causing harm, and questions if its original nature influences this, healing wounds but leaving visible marks behind. Loki explains that the creature is the Ivory Idol Beast, painting number 137, and its original ability is to instantly heal the wounds of anyone it licks. Loki assumes that all the infectees probably had an injury licked without their noticing. Khan arrives and becomes devastated upon finding out that Taoyuan has been infected. Taoyuan makes a joke about it, sparking Khan's intense anger. Khan, unable to bear Taoyuan's presence any longer, tells him to do whatever he wants. Taoyuan, overcome with emotion, runs off. Liche attempts to follow, but Loki advises her not to. Liche then suggests Loki go after Taoyuan, believing he might understand Taoyuan's feelings. Loki returns to the shelter, revealing Aisia's signature on his body to the infected and inquiring if anyone else bears similar markings, as that person might be responsible for the situation. Meanwhile, as Taoyuan ventures into the woods, he unexpectedly encounters Peter, standing alongside the black dog. Back at the shelter, a physician informs Loki that a few days prior, while assisting Peter with a clothing change, he observed a similar mark just beneath Peter's neck. Peter realizes Taoyuan has discovered him and sends the dog to attack. Fortunately, Taoyuan narrowly dodges, but he does get injured. Unexpectedly, Loki arrives and asks Taoyuan to leave due to the scent of his blood affecting him. However, Taoyuan is devastated and decides not to leave, blaming himself for being helpless when Cho died. Loki also recalls feeling powerless when Aisia was attacked and captured, so he begins to grasp Taoyuan's perspective, just as Liche predicted. Loki then gives Taoyuan a slap, urging him to pull himself together. He advises that if Taoyuan truly wants to fight, He must persevere till the end and never give up. Peter expresses impatience with their emotional display, saying he can't watch it any longer. Finally, Loki is able to hear the silent plea of the black dog, begging to be saved. As he prepares for battle, he assures the dog to rest easy, because he will burn it until nothing remains. Rewind to a few years ago. Little Taoyuan lives completely alone on the streets. With no parent or guardian to fend for him, the young boy resorts to a life of crime in the form of petty theft. Taoyuan is forced to steal from others just so he can eat. After a while, he gets pretty good at it. However, whenever he's caught by anyone, Taoyuan is beaten to a pulp. Today seems to be one of those days. Taoyuan steals some money from two guys on the street. He almost gets away with it, but he's caught and well dealt with by the bigger guys. However, even as the two guys beat him up, they reveal their admiration for his courage. A young boy stealing from them and almost getting away with it is no small feat. These guys are Khan and Cho, who ended up being his big brothers. Khan truly admires the young thief, and he asks if Taoyuan would like to become their brother. Khan and Cho are no strangers to the street either. They belong to a crime organization, and so they take Taoyuan to meet their boss as the latest recruit. When the boss hears about Taoyuan's impressive ability to steal silently, he welcomes the young man, and instructs Khan and Cho to train him. After all, the boss has been looking to recruit for some time now. Khan and Cho instantly welcome Taoyuan to the Brotherhood. They know that to train him well, he must eat and be less skinny than he currently is. Taoyuan can't eat the food offered to him because he gets flashbacks about being beaten for trying to get free food. He's a little wary of being beaten by Khan and Cho. They notice this and explain that they would never lay a hand on him, declaring that they're now brothers. They explain that as brothers, they now eat from the same plates and have each other's backs at night. With that, Taoyuan is much more comfortable and starts to eat. A little while later, training starts for Taoyuan. Khan and Cho teach him that despite his impressive pickpocketing techniques and excellent vision, there's always a high chance that he'll get caught if he can't blend in. To help him blend in, they teach him to read like an educated person, alongside other etiquette one needs in public. A peculiar word Taoyuan learns is rehabilitation, which means to turn from a bad phase to a good one. Cho teaches him all the techniques and etiquette he needs to blend in, while Khan sticks to training Taoyuan to fight. It's truly a solid team, with Khan as the hot-tempered and rough one, and Cho as the more grounded one. Taoyuan is living the best period of his life, and he hopes that it never comes to an end. A while has passed to now since Taoyuan got new brothers and a new boss. The three of them have gone on different successful missions together, but today, the boss needs Taoyuan's special skill set to complete a mission. There is a new crime organization in town, Kurao, which the boss seeks to gather some intel about. He instructs Taoyuan to infiltrate the organization by posing as a recruit. When he gains their trust, Taoyuan must steal their register of names and bring it to his boss. Even though their fighting power isn't so high as a new organization, Kurao used to manage casinos, so they undoubtedly have a lot of connections. Khan and Cho aren't happy about Taoyuan being sent on the mission, but the boss manages to convince Taoyuan that the mission will benefit his older brothers, so the little thief decides to go ahead with it. A few days later, Taoyuan meets Mr. Fei Long, the crime boss of the Kurao organization. He shows off his impressive skill set by stealing a few weapons from them. Fei Long is impressed because Taoyuan has much better potential than other recruits his age. Shockingly, Fei Long proves himself to be ruthless by taking out his gun and immediately executing the recruits, whom Taoyuan proved to be better than. He then welcomes Taoyuan to the Kurao organization. This little bloody show makes Taoyuan realize how quickly one could die at Fei Long's hands. As a result, Taoyuan is forced to obey Fei Long's mission instructions to the letter. Whether it's theft, assault, or blackmail, Taoyuan does whatever he can to stay on Fei Long's good side, the breathing side. On this fateful day, Fei Long joins Taoyuan on his walk. They walk past Khan and Cho, and Fei Long instructs Taoyuan to be careful, as those two belong to the Shui organization, their rival. Thankfully, there's minimal eye contact between the three of them, so the boss shouldn't suspect a thing. Fei Long suddenly recalls that he left his cigarettes in his room. He hands the keys to Taoyuan and instructs him to fetch the cigarettes. Taoyuan realizes that Fei Long's room houses the safe where the register of names is kept. He doesn't think about the implications of being caught, as all he can think about is being reunited with his brothers. Unfortunately, Fei Long still has his doubts, and only uses the errand as a test. Fei Long catches him red-handed. It's been a couple of days since Fei Long caught Taoyuan trying to betray him. Khan and Cho can tell that something is wrong, so they immediately report the situation to their boss. Contrary to their expectation, the boss is unwilling to rescue Taoyuan, and calls him a disposable factor which can always be replaced. The boss's latest revelation makes us realize that Taoyuan is just another kid who's been recruited for his talents, and dumped when things went south. He instructs Khan and Cho to get ready to train another kid. After the disappointing meeting with the boss, Khan and Cho have a meeting of their own, where they discuss the pros and cons of saving Taoyuan themselves. Cho advises caution and restraint, saying that any reckless act could increase the animosity between the two organizations. In the end, it might not even be safe for them to rescue him. As has always been characteristic of him, Cho throws caution to the wind and runs off to rescue Taoyuan. Meanwhile, back at the Kurao organization, Fei Long tortures Taoyuan to find out what secrets he may have revealed. Someone informs Fei Long that the president of the organization is there to see him. Fei Long is surprised by his boss's visit, and he's even more surprised when Khan knocks him out in one punch. Khan tries to escape with a half-conscious Taoyuan, but the guards surround them in no time. Thankfully, Cho comes in on a horse and gives them a hand. The Kurao organization is still after them, but Cho insists he has a plan to escape. At some point, he gets down from the horse and asks Khan to make sure he and Taoyuan continue past the bridge. He reveals that he's rigged the bridge with explosives, but someone must stay back and activate them, as the rain wouldn't permit them to use a fuse. Khan refuses, and asks to be the sacrifice instead, but Cho reveals that someone must be strong enough to carry Taoyuan to safety. Taoyuan is partly awake at this point, so Cho begins his teary goodbye. He reveals that his sacrifice is an atonement, all for knowing that Taoyuan would be sent on an infiltration mission and still making no plans to save him. He asks Taoyuan to rehabilitate himself, make a change, and always remember to keep fighting. And so Big Brother Cho makes the ultimate sacrifice to save Taoyuan's life. Back in the present, Taoyuan recalls Cho's words and is determined not to give up. Even against Loki's wishes, he steps up to fight the beast and launches a fearsome attack. The creature heals instantly, and Loki asks just how much blood it's absorbed. Peter confirms that the beast has absorbed a lot of excess blood, and he reveals that his current actions are just a part of his plan. After observing the fight for a while, Taoyuan notices that Peter's in control of the beast painting. The reason the painting can only move at night is because Peter can only move at night. Peter tries to deny it, but Taoyuan's excellent eyesight has seen all. Meanwhile, the other curators discuss the possibility of Peter being behind the illness. They decide to return to headquarters and report the investigation. Meanwhile, Liche notices that Khan's illness is getting worse. She feels sorry for him, so she goes over to comfort him. Immediately, she touches him, Khan surprisingly recovering from the illness. Liche recalls how she was the only one who could move when everyone was in the photo. She encourages all the affected people to touch her and be made well. Meanwhile, during the fight with the painting, Loki and Taoyuan attack at once. Taoyuan manages to seize control of the beast's tongue, and Loki immediately cuts it off. Peter tries to make the painting get back and heal its tongue, but Loki is suddenly stronger and faster without that part of the painting. Loki finally attacks the beast and seals the painting after a while. Surprisingly, the picture turns out to be black. Taoyuan notices that his bruises are gone. Between that and observing the sealed painting, they fail to notice when Peter flees from them. Meanwhile, Peter knows he's messed up, and he also meets other curators in the forest who are divided as to whether he's truly the cause of the illness. Intermediate curator Elena comes to his rescue by killing off all those who doubt the organization and are against Peter. Loki and Taoyuan finally get back. Taoyuan immediately goes to see Khan and apologizes for being so reckless. Khan expresses his pride in having a little brother like Taoyuan. He asks Taoyuan to make other friendships and relationships so he can live a fulfilled life. Meanwhile, Loki informs Liche that he burned the painting. Liche is a little sad that she couldn't help the painting, but Loki reveals that he somehow knew the painting wanted to be burned, so they ended up saving it. Meanwhile, Elena reports back to the curators. She reveals that even though the other painting was burned, they have managed to find something even better. A white, sacred beast painting. After their last mission, Loki has now returned to the Sector 4 headquarters of the Vinculum Company. Loki hasn't been completely fine for a while now, and it has something to do with Liche. Previously, he always saw a spitting image of Isia whenever he looked at Liche. It would seem that now things have changed a bit. Loki is snapped from his thoughts by Saxon's entrance into the office. Saxon talks about Loki's clash with the Mecenat. He makes it clear that the Vinculum Company would prefer to avoid such a public dispute with the Mecenat. Thankfully, no angry letters have been sent to the Sector 4 headquarters, so it's likely that the Mecenat have decided to treat the clash as something that never happened, which somehow arouses even more suspicion from Saxon's point of view. At the moment, Loki is more concerned about the pitch-black nature of the last painting. It's common knowledge that a painting usually turns to deeper shades of reddish-black as it progresses, but the nature of the last painting they encountered, the Ivory Idol Beast, is unlike anything they've ever seen. Loki also recalls that intermediate curator Peter mentioned that the painting was only a part of their plan. This would mean that feeding the paintings an excessive amount of blood is not the final objective of Peter and his companion. So that's something they must figure out. Saxon reveals he's found another lead, but this time it has nothing to do with the Mecenat. He instructs Loki to visit the bustling black market of Doltrone, a location that's pretty far from the headquarters. Saxon would like Loki to keep an eye on any reports about paintings, but even more keenly, Loki must investigate Liche's appearance. Saxon reveals that he's done a little research on the box Liche was in while she was still a doll. It turns out that the box wasn't made by any of the craftsmen associated with the Vinculum company. After doing further research, Saxon realized that style of craftsmanship is very popular in the black market of Doltrone, hence the need to go there. Saxon's best guess is that the doll was put up for auction while in Doltrone. Saxon has also managed to make a connection between Liche and the paintings. He has a record of the paintings they located before Liche's arrival and, of course, after. Before her arrival, they went through a lot of work gathering lots of rumors, putting numbers together, and predicting patterns, just to guess where the painting might be. Now, the paintings are just too easy to find. Saxon also reminds Loki of the time he lost track of Liche, but suddenly found himself in the same place she was. All this evidence only suggests one working theory. Bloody paintings are drawn to Liche. Saxon feels that if the bloody paintings are truly drawn to her, it would be safer for Loki and Liche to move around, as opposed to them staying at the Sector 4 headquarters. He notices that Loki has checked out, so he asks to know the problem. Loki reveals that he's given the theory some thought, and it makes sense. He reveals that whenever he's around Liche, he somehow feels a sensation in his chest, but that's different from the sensation he normally feels in his throat. This would mean that Loki is drawn to Liche because she's a painting. Saxon sees an opportunity with this revelation, and he has a theory that he would like Loki to test. Meanwhile, Miss Mona interrupts their discussion to inform them that lunch is ready. Mona looks around the room and sees a very old clock that doesn't seem to work anymore. Saxon confirms that the clock is as old as the sector itself, and all the gears of the clock have stopped functioning. However, because of how long the clock has been around, it has sentimental value. Meanwhile, Loki's words remain in the back of Saxon's mind. He is surprised that a day has truly come when Loki admits to being drawn by Liche. Saxon can sense something interesting brewing, and it's not just the food in the kitchen. Meanwhile, at the Sacred Mecenat headquarters, Elena is questioned about her role in the ivory idol beast painting getting burned. Her superior is so angry that he intends to have her head cut off. However, Elena informs him that the burned painting pales in comparison to what she discovered at the recent mission. The Sacred Mecenat is well aware of how special blood paintings can be. He describes them as miracles born of the lifeblood of the child of God. If Elena insists that her recent discovery is much more interesting than such a valuable blood painting, then he is certainly intrigued. Elena reveals that she saw the second witch. She reveals that Liche cancelled the effects of the painting with just her touch. According to her, Liche is the second elixir, the one whom they desire, and the chosen descendant. The Sacred Mecenat admits it's a very interesting discovery, but they must do their research to confirm it. Elena is fine with it, and she asks that in return, she be promoted from an intermediate curator to a special curator. Elena asks for permission to perform the ritual necessary for this promotion, the Stigmata ritual. Saxon's request keeps playing in his head. Saxon did remind him of Liche's immunity to the effects of the paintings. He also reminded Loki of how Liche cured the sick people at Ishus with just her touch. As a result of all this, Saxon suggests that Loki could try making physical contact with Liche. Just a touch. Loki is surprised to see Liche cooking in the kitchen. Liche reveals that she's been taking cooking lessons from Mona. She offers Loki some food, but he plays down his need to eat or even sleep, as he's only a painting. Liche still wants him to try it. She reminds him that he previously introduced her to the wonderful combo of bread and soup. Liche passes the bowl to Loki, but just as their fingers are about to make physical contact, he unconsciously drops the bowl and runs off. Loki remembers his time with Isia. He recalls how the boss always scolded her and treated her badly. The only thing that stopped him from beating her was that it would probably result in a waste of valuable blood. When Isia refused to paint, the boss threatened to forcefully take her blood and do the painting. Loki constantly watched as Isia was forced to endure everything from the boss. He wanted to do something badly, but he couldn't. Isia always assured him that all she wanted was for him to be with her, regardless of whether or not he could touch or help her. In the end, Loki could only watch and do nothing as Isia died a sad death. He was filled with frustration and regret, and he started to get a sense of his purpose as a painting. Eventually, Loki buried Isia on the flowery hill she usually looked at from the window. He began to hate humans, and as time went on, the hate turned to indifference. He finally began to gather information about paintings, and this information increased by a great deal when he met Saxon. This leads us straight down to when he meets Liche, the girl who looks exactly like Isia. Maybe, just maybe, he could try touching her. Meanwhile, Isia is deeply concerned about Loki and goes to report her concern to Saxon. She informs Saxon that Loki has seemed a bit strange since they got back from their last mission. A couple of times, she's seen him staring at her from a distance, but whenever she tries to get close, he just pulls away. Saxon knows that it's been exactly 5 days since he suggested that Loki try touching Liche. Right now, he's working on the old clock that Mona previously asked about. He reveals that when one works too hard, they break down at some point. Now, this could be a clock, a person, or even a bloody painting. He He reveals that Loki is worn out from trying to keep the promise he made to Aisia. Over time, Loki has just gotten more disinterested with people, and his thirst for blood after physical contact doesn't do him any favors either. However, Saxon makes it clear that the need for physical contact is present in every human or even painting. He reveals that if there's anyone who can touch Loki without him feeling any adverse effects, it's Liche. Liche reads the message loud and clear, and she immediately runs off to find Loki. She finds Loki alone somewhere in the town. She sits with him and talks about his need for physical contact. She asks whether he's been craving to have that contact with her. When she tries to touch him, Loki impulsively moves back a bit. She realizes that this is because she looks a lot like Aisia. Loki, in tears, reveals that he's always wanted to touch and comfort her. Slowly, he approaches and touches Liche's cheek. He feels the warmth of human contact and feels that she's alive. Loki and Liche finally hug it out. Meanwhile, Elena's about to go ahead with the ritual to become a special curator. The ritual requires two things: a painting filled to the brim with blood, and an exceptionally pure imitation. The ritual takes a while to complete, but Elena endures it and has now become one of the special curators. Back at the Sector 4 headquarters, all is well again between Loki and Liche, just like the old clock. Loki informs her about the trip he plans to take to Doltrone. This is a good opportunity for Loki to look for paintings and Liche to look for her home. Liche isn't going to say no to such an offer, so they set out to the bustling black market of Doltrone. Loki, Aisia, and Taoyuan embark on a journey to Doltrone on foot. Along the way, Loki recalls a conversation with Saxon, who advised him not to disclose his affiliation with the Vinculum Company once they reach Doltrone. Saxon cautioned that many people in Doltrone disagree with the Vinculum's agreements, and revealing their connection could lead to complications. Given the potential repercussions, especially with Section 4 if it became known that the company employees were involved in the black market, Saxon made Loki promise to ensure everyone accompanying him takes the mission seriously. After what seemed like an eternity walking through the hot, dry land, the team finally reaches Doltrone, a city considered the loft of the continent. It boasts a famous black market that harbors everything escaping Vin's control, a place where illegal products violating morality can be sold. The team receives a call through Pokyu from Saxon, reminding them about their earlier discussion, and emphasizing the need to find an informant familiar with the Doltrone like the back of their hand. However, Saxon expresses his concern, stating that he doesn't believe individuals involved in illegal transactions would willingly talk to them. He adds that these individuals might flee upon discovering someone is snooping around their business. That's why he would have preferred Loki to dye his hair. In response, Loki tells him that the hood will be enough. As they stroll through the city, Taoyuan remarks to the rest that the city appears quieter than the rumors suggested, contrary to his expectations of a noisier place. Saxon then informs them that based on the rumors, the 5 district leaders have started meeting to establish new regulations. Despite these efforts, the city remains a place of impurity, urging them to keep a close eye on Liche. However, as Taoyuan and Loki turn around to look at her, they realize she's no longer by their side, having somehow disappeared amidst the crowd. They immediately begin to scream out her name, while she does the same from her position. While looking for Loki and Taoyuan, she suddenly sees some men running toward her, as if chasing someone or something. Without realizing it, they shove her away, and she falls to the ground. A lady approaches Liche, telling her that she assumes Liche is not from around town, and has a feeling she has seen Liche somewhere before. The lady bends down to lend Liche a hand, while also inquiring about her name. However, the moment she touches Liche, the lady undergoes an immediate transformation into a man. The man appears quite shocked by this sudden change and wonders why his metamorphosis suddenly wore off. Liche seizes the opportunity to ask the man if the scarf he's wearing is a cursed painting. The man is surprised by her knowledge, and realizes he can't hide anything from her. Liche then explains to the man that she possesses the power to stop the effects of cursed paintings. The man then inquires if she can reverse it. However, as they converse, the angry mob who shoved Liche away returns, finally spotting the man. It becomes evident that he is the one they were chasing all along, and they address him as Harry. Realizing they have caught up with him, Harry promptly grabs her and runs off. He apologizes for the abrupt grab, explaining that the transformation was supposed to last longer. He then asks her for her name, and she tells him. In response, he declares that from that moment onward, she will be his teammate. Liche begins to scream, pleading for him to release her. He warns her to not shout, cautioning that she might bite her tongue. The men swiftly pursue Harry. While running, Liche finally spots Loki and calls out to him. The man is surprised to see Loki in the city, and seizes the opportunity for a distraction by screaming at the top of his voice that the redhead Loki is in the city. Upon hearing that the redhead is around, even without seeing him, the crowd begins to panic, and everyone starts running in various directions as pandemonium sets in. Loki chases after Harry, urging him to release Liche. Harry questions if Loki is also interested in Liche. He then informs Loki that if he wants to see her again, he should catch him. As Loki continues the pursuit, Taoyuan, on the other hand, gets captured by an angry mob for being affiliated with Loki, and they drag him off. As Harry keeps running around the city, a group of people approach him, asking what the fuss is about and what he's done this time. He informs them that he's being chased by someone. As the people turn around to see who is chasing Harry, they recognize Loki's distinctive hair, and fury immediately takes hold of them. They grab any weapon they can find, demanding to know how Loki dares to set foot in the city after all these years, and that their anger remains undiminished, insisting he will pay for his crimes. Unfazed, Loki pays no attention to their threats, swiftly knocking all of them out with a single swing of his weapon. Liche asks Harry if all those people know Loki. The man explains that in this city, there's no one who is unaware of the name Loki with red hair, the ghost painting. Loki throws his weapon at Harry, who narrowly dodges it. Eventually, Loki chases Harry to a dead end, and they come to a stop. Loki instructs him to hand over Liche once more, but Harry instead kicks a pipe, which begins to emit dark fumes, blocking Loki's vision. Harry immediately throws Liche away, but Loki catches her. Loki then starts acting strangely, asking Liche if her lovely face has been damaged. Moving forward, he touches Liche's face, and the moment he does, he instantly transforms into Harry. This revelation implies that the person who caught Liche was a transformed Harry, not Loki himself. At that precise moment, Harry comes to the realization that his illusion ceases only when he touches Liche's skin. Angrily, Loki warns Harry that he intends to reduce him to ashes. Surprisingly unfazed, Harry laughs and continues to run away. Meanwhile, in another location, Taoyuan is brought to the mob's hideout. The leader explains to him that they need his help in catching Harry. Describing Harry as a perpetual troublemaker, the leader attributes his newfound unruliness to obtaining a cursed painting. An old man there tells Taoyuan that Doltrone is currently at a crucial moment in its history. The old man then shows Taoyuan a miniature model of Doltrone, explaining that they are remodeling Doltrone's districts, and this model represents the new look of the future Doltrone. He further explains that with the meteoric rise of Vinculum in recent years, the black market is losing ground. The Horsehead Company has forged agreements nationwide to fortify its networks. Furthermore, they've received an offer from Vinculum, but their plan for a small, clean market doesn't align with their vision. On the other hand, the Foundation of Sacred Arts presented a distinct proposal, a substantial fund to demolish the aging city of Doltrone and rebuild. In contrast to Vinculum's narrow-minded approach, the Foundation of Sacred Arts appears more accommodating in its practices. However, Harry poses a threat to their negotiations with the Foundation. He went as far as tricking them by posing as a Bella Seductor, and claiming possession of painting number 137, the Scarf of the Buffoon. This unique piece of cloth allows him to assume the appearance of the person it wraps around. The mob also explains to Taoyuan that back then, if a person were fortunate enough, they could make a fortune overnight. However, about 60 years earlier, Loki suddenly appeared and destroyed all the cursed paintings in Doltrone. The black market members couldn't accept that an unknown newcomer was meddling in their business. They retaliated with everything in their power, but it didn't go well, because Loki reduced an entire sector of the 6 that make up the city into dust. Since then, cursed paintings have become a taboo subject. The mob promises to give Taoyuan the painting if he captures Harry for them, but Taoyuan requests to see the bid files first. Back at the bustling market of the city, all the passerbys continue to chase Loki. Harry watches in amusement while grabbing Liche. Liche persists in asking the man to let her go, but he instead tells her that he wants to show her something beautiful. She then asks him why he is so keen on upsetting Loki and the people who live in Doltrone. He confesses that it simply amuses him. Liche then asks him if he gave blood to the painting just for fun. He starts to explain that his parents hated him because he wasn't like them. His father did not want to recognize him as a legitimate son, and that's why his mother hated him. It was there that he came across the cursed painting that allowed him to become another person, saving him when his father lost his mind and tried to kill him. Consequently, he fled to Doltrone. Liche starts to feel sorry for Harry, but Harry in a joking manner bursts into laughter and confesses he fabricated the entire story. The true reasons behind his actions, he explains, stem from finding amusement in what he does, with his past having no bearings on it. Harry explains that he is just a man in the shadows, unknown to everyone. To counteract this, he utilizes his cursed painting to demolish these no-fun projects. Moreover, Harry expresses his intention to confront inequality and arrogance with a big bang and a smile, emphasizing that Doltrone is meant to be a city of freedom and chaos. Harry confesses to Liche that his transformation usually takes a long time to occur. However, with Liche by his side, he can transform back any time, which is why he needs her as a teammate. In turn, Liche reveals that she came to Doltrone in hopes of recovering her memory. Apparently, she had once passed through Doltrone while she was sleeping. Harry then jumps around in excitement, and exclaims that he was right when he earlier said that she looked familiar. He proceeds to tell her about her owner, who bought her at the auction house 13 months ago, mentioning that she was a famous doll. Liche is shocked to hear that she was once a doll. Harry further adds that if it's possible for a scarf to change his appearance, then it's also possible that she's a doll who came to life. However, he wonders if this means Liche is a cursed painting. Confusion seemed to overwhelm Liche, frozen with shock, as the revelation of this information proved too much to take in. Harry then asked her if she's okay, and as he attempted to touch her, Loki arrived, instructing him not to touch her. Loki proceeded to inquire about what Harry had done to Liche. Despite Harry's attempt to make a joke, Loki pointed his sword at him, emphasizing the seriousness of the situation. In the midst of their confrontation, a giant creature suddenly appeared in the city, heading toward Loki and Harry's location. With one swift swipe of its massive arm, the creature forcefully shoves Loki away. What's even more surprising is that after a few moments, someone slowly begins to emerge from the monster's body. To everyone's amazement, the person revealed is Elena, who greets Loki with a maniacal smile, wishing him a good morning. Loki wonders what sort of cursed painting monster the creature is. He takes note of the creature's disproportionate build and sturdy carapace, initially thinking it might be painting 104, the paladin's protective armband concealing the appearance of a person. However, he revises his assumption when he realizes it's a unique type of painting capable of merging with the human body. He comes to understand that the painting must be the messenger dressed in black. Just then, Taoyuan arrives on the scene and wonders about the mysterious lady's identity. Elena is amused by the fact that Loki seems to care too much about Liche. She asks him what would happen if she found Liche before he did. Loki sternly warns her to not lay her dirty paws on Liche. Elena, with a maniacal tone, tells him she appreciates the expression on his face, but what she truly desires is to see his face twisted in pain. She then tells him that being in the city brings back memories for her, and that she never thought she would be back in Doltrone. Reflecting on the moment, she wonders aloud if it's destiny. Loki, puzzled, asks her what she's talking about. In response, she promises to refresh his memory if he doesn't remember. Without hesitation, she begins to attack him with the monster's tail, swiftly following it with a powerful punch that sends him flying through several buildings. Elena then adds that she would never forget how he stole a rich being from her, and she would never forgive him. She explains to him that as long as bloody paintings have blood, they can regenerate regardless of their frame. However, if they run out of blood, they revert to being a mere canvas. Thus, she asserts that she will ensure she kills him as many times as it takes. On the other hand, while chasing after Harry, Taoyuan pleads with him to let her go. Taoyuan eventually loses them, and Harry hides somewhere with her. Taoyuan then continues searching for them. At the hiding place, Liche kicks Harry's foot, causing him to release his grip. She seizes the opportunity to run away. Apologizing, she tells him she has to go. Liche runs for a while but begins to slow down as the realization that she might actually be a cursed painting floods back into her mind. She then wonders if she can really be with Loki after that. Harry catches up with her and asks why she isn't running anymore. He attempts to cajole her, mentioning his handsomeness, good health, and surprising agility despite his age. Noticing Liche's downcast face, he inquires about what's bothering her. She asks him what to do if she's a doll, and if being a cursed painting means she can't stay with Loki. Harry suggests she stay in Doltrone with him, but she refuses. He then asks her why she cares so much about Loki. Liche ponders whether it's because she desires to be with him or because, upon opening her eyes, she feels like an empty shell until she sees Loki. The sadness in his expression caught her attention. She confesses to having no memories before waking up, but Loki's pained look remains vivid in her mind. Initially frightened, as she got to know him better, she began contemplating how she could assist and support him. And he also came to her even though her presence must be painful to him, since she reminds him of Aisya. But still, he asked her to accompany him on this journey. He also took her into his arms. Despite his cold and icy body, she felt like she could stay close to him. Liche's story triggers a past memory for Harry, recalling when he first arrived in Doltrone feeling downcast with tears streaming down his face. At that moment, a fine lady approached him inquiring about what was wrong, and asking if he was new to the place. She also warned him that he would be an easy target for robbers if he continued crying in that spot. Harry confessed that he had contemplated the idea of ending his own life, feeling like his existence embarrassed those around him. In response, she smiled at him, and questioned the wisdom of caring about others' opinions in a city seemingly abandoned by fate, and asked how he could still be concerned about such matters in a god-forsaken place. Harry then tells Liche to stop convincing herself that she needs Loki's permission to be by his side. They are in Doltrone, the city of freedom and chaos, where she can decide for herself. He gently encourages her, advising her to hold her head high, and suggests they prepare a welcome party for the uninvited monster. Back at the scene of the battle, it seems Elena has beaten Loki to a bloody pulp. She ponders how many times she must kill him before he turns into a mere drawing again. She questions him about his survival, despite not drinking blood. Surprisingly, Liche arrives at the scene, screaming out Loki's name. Elena informs her she's just in time. Loki warns Elena to not touch Liche, but she flings him away, instructing him to stay still and watch from a distance. Loki screams for Liche to run away. Elena takes a swipe at Liche, but she skillfully dodges it and swiftly makes her escape. Elena relentlessly pursues her. Meanwhile, as Elena continues her chase, a cannonball is suddenly shot at a building beside her, causing it to collapse. It turns out that the person responsible for this attack is the leader of the mob. He instructs them to position the cannons directly at the trapped monster. The men comply, and they commence firing simultaneously, minimizing downtime for reloading. The leader of the mob explains to his men that cursed paintings become simple paintings again when their blood runs out or when their owner dies. He emphasizes that this is a war of attrition, ordering them to go to round 2 and not give it time to regenerate. Liche rushes towards Loki to help him up. However, the moment she reaches him, the monster emerges from the rubble once more, chasing after her. Elena then notes that she and her monster have attracted everyone's attention. Unfortunately, if they want to defeat her, they'll have to try a little harder. Elena suddenly employs one of the monster's huge talons to stab Liche from behind, creating a gaping hole in her body. Loki helplessly watches as Liche gets stabbed, unable to intervene, and waves of fury begin to rush through him. He recalls all the memories he has shared with Liche, most of which involving her smiling, and it feels like something suddenly breaks within him. The monster is immediately bombarded with a series of cannonballs, but it regenerates almost immediately. Loki stands up from the ground and walks towards Liche. Elena is shocked that Loki can still walk despite everything. As Loki grabs the dying Elena, a sense of despair overwhelms him, and a dark aura emanates from his being, filling the air. His body undergoes a sudden transformation. Subsequently, he morphs into a dangerously corrupted, bloody painting monster. The Sacred Art Foundation focuses on getting Liche, who is trapped in a box, while attention on them is quite reduced. Meanwhile, Loki is transformed and faces the monsters created, which in turn is turning him into a monstrous version of himself. As he fights, he realizes that there's always one image in the back of his mind, one that never leaves him. Here, he implies the spitting resemblance that Liche has of Aisia, and even though she has the same voice, facial expression, and some tendencies, it isn't a good thing for him. He would rather not have an image or see anything that reminds him of her at all than see her face in Liche while carrying out the witch's last wish. Next up, a wild exchange ensues between the monster and Loki, to an extent where those around would describe it as a battle between monsters, driven by the desire to kill and destroy they did. For the people of Doltrone, the battle wasn't a pleasant one to watch, as everything has been demolished and it didn't seem like it would end soon. The people worry for the future of Doltrone, but the old man working in the biddings of the Sacred Art Foundation assures them that the Foundation will tear down the old grimy city Doltrone is, and informs them that the cursed painting attack would enable the city to obtain financial assistance from the Foundation. Suddenly, Taoyuan charges in with the bloody painting bird creature and heads to where Liche is, surprising the onlooking villagers in the process. Getting to Liche and confirming that she's alive and well, they both head over to Loki, as Liche expresses her concern for Loki's well-being. Curious, Taoyuan asks her what she was doing in a box, to which she informs him that Harry advised her to hide in there, since the area was getting dangerous. After advising and forcing her to hide in the box, Harry told her that he would be right back, also adding that he's just going to play with Loki for a bit. Harry is soon found injured and almost dead on their way to where Loki is, without a clue as to who did it, and causing Liche fear and shock. With his last few dregs of strength left, he calls out to Liche, apologizing for showing her his current state. When she asks why he did what he did, Harry simply replied saying he did it because he wanted to. Harry continues, admonishing her to head on to Loki's side and decide to stay there with him. In his words, whether you make a goal or you die a dog's death, and even if people despise you for it, the most important thing is to stay on your feet. That's the one way to have the best time. Soon enough, Harry's associates show up to give him all the care and tending he needs. And with this, Harry urges her on to set out to Loki, and show him that she's safe and sound. Harry continues playing hero and encourages her, saying the most difficult thing is that first step, despite the hole in his belly. Unfortunately, his associate didn't wholly agree with his views, as he regrets not tying Liche up when she was bait. The associate also asks Harry why he participated in the conflict, adding the question of if he is okay with the city being destroyed in a scornful tone. Doltrone depleted over the years and got to a point where it's not even possible to drink water. The place became full of sand, and the same applied to the people inhabiting it. To discern amongst the crowd what matters most to you became a quest worth risking life for. Harry asks his associate Eliza what the plan for Doltrone is. In this moment, the old man working for the goals of the Sacred Arts Foundation interrupts them, asking Eliza if the biggest obstacle to the reconstruction of Doltrone is finally disappearing. Realizing that the agreement with the Foundation has put Harry and Doltrone in a bad place so far, Eliza disagrees with him, ordering that all negotiations with the Sacred Arts Foundation be suspended. In a bid to dissuade her decision, the old geezer asks her if she has lost her mind, but she explains that she's been doing some thinking, and has gained doubt and uncertainty in leaving the fate of Doltrone in the hands of the organization. The geezer doesn't stop his persuading there, but continues, adding that with the support of the organization, the Doltrone market, which is decreasing in efficiency and yield, will recover its vitality, and for the elderly like them, it would be an enjoyable outcome as they wait for their demise. Unfazed, Lisa asks if Doltrone would lose its soul, and the obvious answer is yes. The city serves as a refuge for those who break the law, those that the rest of the world denied a place in society. The city is inhabited by the marginalized. If Doltrone gets under the control of the Foundation, all of the outcasts the city houses would have no place to call home. And when these outcasts leave, they would clear the way for the respectable people who have the consent of the conservatives. This would make Doltrone no longer Doltrone. Also, there's a sentiment in her reason, as she does not feel right letting clean mouths that have never tasted dirty water in their lives to tell the new chapter of the city. Disagreeing to give up the way of life in Doltrone for a handful of bliss, she urges the people of Doltrone to join her and destroy the monsters, adding that abroad, Doltrone and its people are referred to as the continent's loft. Meanwhile, Elena is still in the monster, but this time her wounds are taking a long time to heal and regenerate, most likely because she has used up too much blood. From the pain and agony she is in, she recognizes that it would be in her best interest to retreat, but the pain keeps increasing at an alarming rate, causing her excruciating pain. She would retreat if not for Seth's manipulation and instruction for her to not run away and get used to her new body, the monster. As Elena is about to get dismembered by the monster Loki, Taoyuan gets in just in time to beat Loki off, asking him why he still looks like a monster even after he's won. For Elena, vitality is running out, and in her last conscious moments, she sees that her savior turns out to be the guy in handcuffs, Taoyuan. Although we cannot thoroughly consider her safe since Loki is still rampaging in the area as a monster. Taoyuan tries to hold him off, but fails to gain an advantage or ground against the monster. In desperation, he calls out to Loki, informing him that Liche is alive and well. Hearing this and seeing an alive and well Liche seems to have an effect on Loki, as the attacks start to stall. Liche is left confused, curious, and scared, as she wonders what exactly happened to Loki. The bloody painting creature present explains what could possibly be happening. Despite not seeing Loki in a while, judging from his appearance, the creature's guess is that Loki is trapped in a looping regeneration cycle. Even though Loki is a regeneration expert, the creature can still not predict what will become of him. Unexpectedly, Loki, still in the frenzy state, reaches for Liche and tries to attack her, showing that he was truly not himself at all. Taoyuan, as usual, is fast enough to get Liche out of Loki's reach, while the townspeople attack Loki, showing no mercy and attacking from a distance. The exchange causes a huge building in the area to come crashing down, putting Mr. Saxon and the bloody painting bird Pokyu in danger. Liche takes a wide view and realizes that all of the destruction and slaughter would not sit right with either Loki nor the witch Aisia. Liche then remembers Harry's advice and decides to take the first, difficult step. With bravery, Liche approaches the monster Loki and hugs him, asking him to come back to her and Taoyuan. In a soul state, she meets a sad and crying Loki who doesn't want to see anything else because if Aisia or her has to die, he wouldn't want to face that. Everything that matters is disappearing. Here, Loki is encouraged, as he remembers moments that him and Aisia shared, reading a picture book together at night, counting every brick in the tower, and other good times. Aisia then encourages him to open his eyes and look, even though it's easier for his emotions to keep the eyes closed. If he keeps his eyes closed, the last of what remains of Aisia, Liche's face and voice, would disappear forever. Hearing this, the Loki in love with Aisia decides to open his eyes and regain full control of his body, causing the monster to diminish and vanish, and as for him, he returns to the arms and welcome of his loved ones. Before we dive right back into the story, let's take a quick recap of the characters we've got. For our superstar, the witch herself, Aisia, a girl whose works could work miracles when she paints them with her blood. Her legacy is left to one of her creations, Loki. Loki, our main character, is born out of Aisia's painted drawings, and to satisfy her last wish, he's been traveling the world for more than a century, with the aim of burning all of Aisia's bloody paintings. Then we have Liche, a girl who has an uncanny resemblance and the same powers as the witch, but lost her memories and has been entrusted to the 4th Division. As for the Vinculum Company's 4th Division, the members include Saxon, the head of the division, Taoyuan, the Lightning, a member of the company that joined after 10 years of pickpocketing, who is now repentant and wears handcuffs as a means of redemption, which barely works, Levi, a member of the district that helps Saxon collect bloody paintings with ulterior motive of finding someone, and Mona, who isn't a proper member of the district, but supports the district under Saxon's leadership. Let's not forget the Sacred Arts Foundation, Seth being the curator and the one who manipulates the second-ranking curator, Elena. Elena, on the other hand, has an undying urge to see Loki dead because of a past affair. Including key characters like Harry and Lisa, member and leader of the Doltrone districts, is very important as well. Now delving back into the story. At the 4th District Company headquarters, Saxon and Mona can't help but worry about the well-being of Loki and the rest, as the connection between the two parties was down. With no choice other than waiting for the bird to wake up, they hope for the best, leaving the moment private with Loki and those on site. Meanwhile, Loki reunites with Liche, who hugs him with so much verve he realizes his lack of strength. He appreciates the warmth the embrace emanates, but tries to figure out why he could no longer move his body. The experience makes him remember Saxon's express wish for him to find anything that would give him a reason to keep living, and something he values enough to live for. For Loki, this bond and connection he has with Liche would be that something. Suddenly, the people of Doltrone surround the duo and charge at Loki since he's weak. They saw it as a golden opportunity to give him a coup de grace and finish him off at his weak state. But unexpectedly, Lisa asks the people to hold on, and hands over the cursed painting and the auction records Loki and the crew were looking for in the first place. She then asks Loki and the others to take the items and leave the city. Suspicion hasn't ended, however, as somewhere in the infirmary where Harry is being treated, Seth rears his ugly head. The medics were finding it hard to stop the bleeding, and Harry's breathing grew weaker with time. Seth approaches the doctors, and upon probing, he is about to reveal his true intentions of retrieving Elena's body, but hides it under the guise of answering a distress call. In the bid to distract them, he does the most unexpected and weird thing possible. He shows them a flower and asks if it's a pretty color. While the doctors are confused and distracted, Seth uses his abilities to revive Harry from the grasps of death. Done with the healing, the medics regain their focus and attention as they look at the miracle that happened in their presence. Harry is breathing again. This causes them to wonder what really happened with Harry and how he got out of death's clutches. With this cover, Seth asks the medics if he could take Elena back with him. He continues accepting the blame for all the fuss that has happened, and truly, the Foundation sits at the center of it all. So Seth asks to take her in for questioning. But before the medics could give an answer, Harry gets up and asks why Seth saved him. Seth replies that he saved him on a whim, but sarcastically adds that he can send Harry an invoice for the medical expenses if he deemed fit. Curious and cautious, Harry also asks if him wanting to take the girl back is also one of Seth's whims. In a threatening manner, Seth asks him if he's sure it's a good idea to want to know more. But before the situation could get more intense, the people of Doltrone led by Lisa head into the infirmary to see Harry. First off, they're all shocked to see Harry up and going, but happy nonetheless. But Lisa is shocked as to why a curator, Seth, is in the infirmary with the medics and him. Opposing him almost immediately, she asks him to go away if he has come to tender alms to the townspeople. She also adds that she'll cancel their agreement with the Foundation. Hearing this, Seth denies being the one responsible for the whole story, and adds that the city would have to pay penalties if they choose to break the contract. The old geezer in support of the Foundation's cause adds more to the situation, citing that it would be almost impossible to pay penalties as the money is needed to rebuild Doltrone. Unexpectedly, Harry agrees to pay the penalties, leaving the room in a mix of relief and shock. Harry further adds that the weeds of Doltrone would continue to sprout until their roots are dead. Lisa tries to be considerate, putting in the fact that Harry doesn't have what it takes to pay the penalties. She adds that he doesn't have to carry all the responsibility alone. But Harry reminds her that she once said in Doltrone, you can do anything you want, especially if you have spirit. He then notices his scarf is missing and asks Lisa where it is. Lisa informs him that she gave it to the redhead Loki. Hearing this, he rushes after Loki and the crew, making their way out of Doltrone in a bid to regain his scarf and strike one last deal. While Taoyuan is happy that Loki is back to normal, casually praising his own delusion of his superpower of persuasion, he also adds that Loki is lucky that he's the one that fought him. If it were someone else, Loki would probably be dead, because the person will be fighting to protect himself from danger and delete any threat that comes to shore. Seeing that he looks too exhausted, Taoyuan suggests that they rest at the next village before continuing their journey. Before that happens, Loki asks Liche to give him the cursed painting, so he burns it right there and then. All of a sudden, Harry pops up, surprising everyone and greeting Liche as casually as possible. With Loki growing suspicious by the minute, Harry senses it and calms him down, informing him that he came in peace to only make a deal. Here, Harry discloses that he actually likes Loki and explains why. He remembers the day when Loki devastated an entire district 60 years ago when he first came. Harry was a young boy then. To see a man live as long as he wanted to while he got worried about how others would look at him, he felt ridiculous. Since he got chills from the first encounter, he decided that he wanted to live that way. He informs Loki that he wants to do business with him. Next, he proposes that he would give Loki the scarf for 3 million. What Doltrone needs at this point is money to get back on his feet, but since the people don't have enough to even pay for the medical expenses and penalties for canceling the contract with the Foundation, the money would be put to a very judicious use. Curious, Loki asks if he would truly give up his partner for money, and Harry explains that money is just an extra. If it were up to him, he wouldn't give up the scarf to anybody, no matter how much they paid him. He's only doing it because he doesn't have much time left in his life, and he doesn't want the scarf to find a new owner after his death. He wants to be the last person with the memories with the bloody painting. If it gets a new owner, there's a chance it could be misused. So he would love the last memories to be the stupid things that they did together. Since Loki is going to burn the painting, Harry discloses that he would love to witness its last moments. The scarf comforts all those who wrap themselves in it. It encourages the one who is crying by showing them the face they would have if they were smiling, as if to say, look, that smile looks so much better than the tears. Loki also remembers that when Aisya made that scarf before it was picked up, she hoped that the owner would be as irreplaceable a friend as Loki was to her, and that they would take good care of it. The bloody painting's name, the Jester's Handkerchief, the 123rd painting, would now see its end, as it gets sealed by Loki in Aisya's name. Another unexpected event in this chain of happenings occurs. The lot was absolutely unprepared for it. In a split second, Seth makes his appearance in their midst and takes Liche, whom he had been watching, hostage. Taoyuan quickly recognizes him as a member of the Sacred Art Foundation, causing everyone to be alert. Seth, in a mischievous tone, tells Liche that he has missed her, and when the others try to approach him, he asks them not to move, threatening to be brutal if they do. Seth reveals that Liche interests him, and he would like to take her back with him. In a creepy manner, he asks her if she's noticed that she's thicker than before. This makes Loki angry and causes him to react, and as he charges towards Seth in a bid to save Liche, Seth tells him not to move, overwhelming Liche. After this exchange, Seth decides that if she were to stay with Loki for longer, it seems the benefits will be greater, and with this, he decides to leave her this time, promising to come for her soon in the future. As Liche leaves the claws of danger, they all rush towards her and surround her, asking if she's hurt and okay, Loki being the most concerned. Loki asks her to not walk away from him again. Right then, the connection between the bird creatures came back, and Saxon and the company could get in touch with them again. Liche discloses that even though she might be a bloody painting with no memory before waking up, and the fact that she can stop the power of the paintings proves it, she feels happy being with Loki. Loki assures her not to worry, as she's not a cursed painting, and he also reminds himself that she's not Aisya either. Despite this, Loki assures her that he wants to be by her side as well. This shocks Saxon and makes him remember when he first met Loki. After learning that Loki's nickname is the Ghost Painting, he understood what the name meant. A ghost, sparing with words who trusted no one, and lived on the basis of a vague promise. After spending time with him, he got worried about Loki, and continued to wish he found a reason to live. Back to the present, Harry and Loki strike a deal, and since the auction records have a great deal of information, they try to figure out their next destination. It happens to be the Passio family of explorers, a family of treasure hunters who are nomadic and can rarely be spotted in a single place. In order to find them, Loki needs to follow the trail of their customers, and the person to start with is a young man with an intellectual appearance, who is also a noble named Snow Lopez. Pokyu is thoroughly convinced that their current location is Namito, an eastern city hosting a local branch of the Sacred Arts Foundation. The central headquarters situated at the continent's center isn't the most practical for deploying personnel across various regions. To address this, the Foundation has established numerous regional cells, and the acceptance of these local divisions stands at an impressive 90% across regions. This decentralized structure ensures a more effective and widespread implementation of their mission. The Citizen Foundation pulls off no small feat by providing free hospital care and acting as vigilant watchdogs, overseeing various dog groups and offering shelter. This organization exudes an aura of confidence, signaling a place where causing trouble is strongly discouraged. Instead, caution is advised for anyone navigating the intricate workings of such a multifaceted foundation. The city is full of conservatives. Loki warns Liche to not stray too far, and spots a wanted poster of a dangerous-looking man. Encountering a young boy, Liche contemplates asking him for insights on the situation. With curiosity, Liche inquires about Mr. Snow Lopez and is met with an affirmative response, learning that Mr. Lopez is indeed the son of the governor of the city. In fact, Mr. Lopez holds a pivotal role as the most important character in the inner workings of the Namito cell of the Sacred Arts Foundation. The boy hastily mentions he's got to head to work, leaving the crew with the nugget of information about Mr. Snow Lopez being a conservative. Loki, processing this new detail, ponders their next move. As they step into the Namito cell, a friendly receptionist greets them, offering assistance with hospital care or accommodation. Contrary to the usual requests, they express their desire to meet Mr. Snow Lopez. The receptionist promptly asks if they have a pre-scheduled appointment. The spokesperson of the group admits they don't. The receptionist shares that Mr. Lopez is currently touring the headquarters, and won't be back for 3 days, suggesting they return then. They exit, contemplating whether they've hit a dead end. Suddenly they encounter the helpful boy from earlier who recognizes them. The boy, revealing he works there, invites them to dine at his establishment, calling out to prepare a table for 3. In the midst of their meal, a slip in the conversation reveals that Mr. Snow was adopted by the Lopez family 2 years ago. Rumors circulate that he hails from a noble family, and was appointed head of the regional cell. Under his leadership, law and order thrives, and tourism flourishes. However, there's curiosity about his recent summons to the headquarters, particularly with the looming murder cases. Taoyuan practically spits out his food at the mention of these murders. The individual who had been sharing the information realizes he might have been talking to people who might not be aware of ongoing cases. So he clarifies that someone has been assaulting passerbys for the past 3 nights in a row. The victims are stabbed in the back, but paradoxically, the bodies are found drained of blood. Taoyuan asks if the culprit isn't the guy on the wanted poster, and the informant states that indeed that is the suspected party. The informant has it that the poster man fled after stabbing the nobleman that funded the foundation. The informant also reveals that travelers remain within the walls of the foundation. There are no hotels at Namito. Accommodation at the foundation is free of charge, meaning there's simply no need for hotels. However, this isn't good news for the crew as far as they're concerned, because it would mean sleeping with the enemy. The oblivious boy from earlier offers that they can come sleep at his house. Liche is excited about the offer, and the boy assures them it stands. However, he mentions that until his shift is over, they are welcome to find ways to keep themselves occupied. Meanwhile, Saxon is deep in research. He recalls a conversation he had earlier with Loki, where Loki brought up the possibility of humans being morphed with cursed paintings. Loki states that from all indications, Elena from the Sacred Arts Foundation seems like someone that had been fused with a cursed painting. Even the guy that came to pick her up was replete with dark arms. It seems the Foundation is gathering paintings for a bigger plan. Reading further, Saxon discovers that the Foundation was closed when the conservators took arms to protect the Babel Tower and its cultural heritage. The news that they defended Babel piques Saxon's curiosity enough to head to the Central Library before having lunch. On the other end, the crew has been trying to reach Saxon and Mona to no avail. The boy offering them accommodation introduces himself as Ruble. The crew reciprocates with their introductions. Ruble takes Liche aside and inquires if Taoyuan and Loki are fugitives, expressing concern that they might not have the Sacred Foundation's best interests at heart. Liche promptly defends her friends, explaining that they're merely travelers who have faced challenges. Taoyuan notices the camaraderie between Liche and Ruble, remarking on the positive sight of Liche having a friend her age. This catches Loki's attention, and Taoyuan playfully asks if Loki is feeling a hint of jealousy seeing Liche form a new friendship with Ruble. They soon arrive at Ruble's place. He lives with his grandmother, who he claims isn't a fan of people. Despite conversation, Loki plans to step out to find the people that have been attacking the city. He instructs Taoyuan to stay back and watch after Liche. To Liche, he advises to alert by screaming if anything should go wrong. As Loki leaves, Ruble asks Liche if they should follow, but Liche decides against it, suggesting they do dishes instead. While doing the dishes, she asks Ruble about his hospitality, and he shares that it's a promise he made to his grandmother to be kind to people. Ruble delves into his past, revealing his family's background as circus performers. He recounts a fateful day when a fire broke out, claiming everyone's life besides him and his grandmother. Sadly, the grandmother scarred from the fire rarely steps out anymore. Ruble hoped that bringing travelers over might help her open up a bit. Meanwhile, from observation, Loki notices that the conservatives don't possess much substantial information, nor does the village of Ishus. While on the street, Loki catches a glimpse of the murderer and decides to follow them after witnessing a recent killing. Loki catches up to the murderer and discovers that it is the man from the wanted poster. He questions the man, asking if he's a spy for the Foundation. The man, visibly upset, rejects the comparison, asking not to be likened to, as he puts it, those morons. The man initiates a formidable fire spell, triggering Loki's memories of painting number 133 titled The Gauntlets of the Fire Rats. Although the man's flames are significantly more substantial. As they engage in combat, the man remarks that the redhead appears weaker than expected. Surprisingly, he reveals that he wasn't the recent murderer, but was actually trying to apprehend the killer. Before Loki can press further, the man cryptically states that before Loki looks towards the moon, he should know that he is the one who will finish him off, and then he departs. With the man gone, Loki reflects on the prolonged healing time for his wounds, experiencing a dizziness that leaves him questioning what is happening to him. Back at Ruble's, Liche presumes Loki is back when she hears footsteps, but what she sees is a stunning creature Ruble refers to as Grandma. Liche hurries to fetch Taoyuan, who is equally surprised to encounter Ruble's grandmother. Oblivious to the surprise, Ruble cheerfully introduces his grandmother to Taoyuan. The wise grandmother, noticing Ruble's tardiness, suggests that it's time for everyone to go to sleep. She informs Liche and Taoyuan that she intends to speak with them in the morning. Upon Loki's return, Ruble's supposed grandmother finally reveals the truth. She confesses that she's actually a cursed painting, which accounts for her peculiar appearance. During the fire incident, she became the possession of Ruble in place of his late grandmother. Initially, she started as a cursed painting that could imitate voices, replicating the ones used by Ruble's late grandmother during circus performances. When questioned about why she's concealing the truth from Ruble, she explains that she's lived with the temptation of drinking blood for many years, but succumbed to it to satisfy her insatiable craving. However, she no longer wishes to be that person, and requests Loki to reduce her to ashes. Her final plea? is to die as a human. Taoyuan catches up with Saxon, providing him a comprehensive briefing on recent events. This includes Loki feeling unwell, the revelation about Rubel's grandmother being a cursed painting, and the discovery that Mr. Snow Lopez is a conservative. Taoyuan also fills Saxon in on the funeral arrangements they're making for the cursed painting. The cursed painting is determined to shield Rubel from discovering the truth, hence her desire to pass away in the familiar human form that Rubel recognizes. Upon hearing this, Saxon decides to enlist Mona to investigate the ritual rites in the region, temporarily setting aside their ongoing case. Meanwhile, Loki continues to experience dizzy spells since leaving Doltrone, prompting Saxon to speculate if these episodes are side effects from his transformation. Simultaneously, Liche goes to Rubel's workplace and informs him about his grandmother's deteriorating health. Rubel seeks permission to leave work, and rushes home with Liche by his side. Overwhelmed with emotion upon seeing his ailing grandmother, Rubel declares that if she dies, a part of him will also perish. Rubel's grandmother presents him with a whistle to wear as a pendant on his neck. She assures him that if he ever needs help, all he has to do is blow the whistle. The whistle becomes a symbol of her perpetual presence by his side. Rubel stays by his grandmother's sickbed until Taoyuan intervenes, mentioning that the curator will be arriving soon. Despite this, the grandmother declines the curator, expressing that she doesn't need one. She reveals that this will be the last time she sees any of them. In a tender moment, she advises Rubel to be a good boy and take care of himself, as he will have a lot to handle on his own now. Though Rubel struggles to accept that this is their final meeting, he eventually comes to terms with it. Meanwhile, the crew, Loki, Liche, and Taoyuan deliberate on funeral arrangements. They discuss the local custom of immediately cremating the body to prevent contamination by evil spirits. To proceed with the plan, they decide to simulate a cremation before Loki burns the cursed painting to ash. The man from the wanted poster reappears during their discussion, and callously attempts to reveal the truth about Rubel's grandmother being a cursed painting. Loki swiftly intervenes, noticing that when he makes physical contact with the man, he doesn't feel the usual thirst for blood. This realization prompts Loki to question if the man from the poster is also a cursed painting. In response, the man dismisses the significance, stating that regardless, Loki's mission is to burn cursed paintings, so he might as well add him to the to-do list. Rubel witnesses what he believes to be the cremation of his grandma, and reminisces about the first time she gave him the whistle when he was just a little boy unable to fend for himself. Overwhelmed with grief, he weeps deeply at the realization that his grandmother is gone for good. The man from the poster expresses his frustration at Loki becoming attached to humans he claims to hate. In response, Loki asserts that his primary goal remains the destruction of cursed paintings, and the man has no right to dictate what additional pursuits he should be involved in. As the poster man thinks he's beginning to have fun with Loki, Taoyuan steps in, redirecting Loki's attention. The man questions why Taoyuan is getting involved, to which Taoyuan responds that he's fulfilling his older brother duties. Meanwhile, Loki meets up with the cursed painting that was once Rubel's grandmother, and the painting patiently awaits to be sealed forever by Loki in the name of the witch. As Taoyuan and the poster man begin to tango, men on horses spot the wanted man, and it seems it's game over for him. But there's an additional plot twist. Mr. Snow Lopez is who Taoyuan has always known as Brother Cho, one of his two brothers that disappeared a long time ago. Cursed painting number 16, The Mountain Spirit Adventure, a painting by the witch that illustrates a tale invented by the witch. Once upon a time, there was a mountain spirit that imitated human voices every day. He dreamed of being a human as he traveled through the mountains. He only knew how to reproduce their voices, but thanks to his natural spirit and ingenuity, he managed to overcome many obstacles. That's how humans accepted to consider him as one of their own, and he lived happily ever after. In the midst of the momentary distraction caused by Taoyuan's reunion with his long-lost brother Cho, the poster man seizes the opportunity to escape. Taoyuan approaches his brother with a hopeful smile, expressing how long it has been since they last met. But to his disappointment, Mr. Snow Lopez fails to recognize him. Taoyuan continues to insist that Snow Lopez must know who he is, as he and the other brother Khan have never stopped looking for him. Snow Lopez responds coldly, still unable to recognize who he is. Taoyuan continues to insist, stating that he's from the 4th Division of the Vinculum Company. Taoyuan asks Lopez if he has heard of the Pasio family, which Lopez has apparently heard of. Snow Lopez then impatiently states that he has work to get to, and he doesn't like Taoyuan, insisting on a conversation he's not interested in because Taoyuan is just a stranger to him that he hopes he never sees again. As Loki's condition worsens, Levi arrives on the scene, determined to help. Despite Loki's initial resistance, Levi insists, mentioning that Saxon sent him for a specific purpose. Worried about Loki's declining health, Levi proposes a thorough analysis. Simultaneously, Taoyuan drops the bombshell about how Snow Lopez is his long-lost brother. Taoyuan reveals that he had a conversation with Lopez about the Pasio family. Despite the mixed emotions of sadness, depression, and happiness stemming from his brother's lack of recognition, He notes that Lopez retains the familiar mannerism of correcting his grammar, offering a peculiar comfort. In the end, Taoyuan is relieved and content just to know that his long-lost brother is alive and well. As for Ruble, it seems he'll be okay if his employer Dan accepts. He'll be living in the restaurant on the top floor. Also, thanks to the whistle, he knows that his grandmother is watching over him. He thanks the crew for being there for him, as it meant that he was able to say goodbye to his grandma properly. He then jovially waves them a goodbye as they move forward. Taoyuan shares his plan to return to Ishus Village to let Brother Khan know that Brother Cho is still alive. Levi approves of the idea and promises to update Saxton about Taoyuan's whereabouts. Taoyuan is also instructed to meet them at Mrs. Lilac's once he's done with his personal duties. The crew reaches Mrs. Lilac's house just before nightfall, and Levy warns them to steer clear of anything with a red label as it's off limits. Levi gives the crew a tour of his multifunctional room at Mrs. Lilac's house. Hilda joins in, ready to examine Liche, showing particular interest in her. Hilda, Levi's older sister, makes a warm introduction, highlighting that this place has been Levi's home since he was a child. Amid the casual conversation, Hilda casually mentions that they have a younger brother named Rolf. The revelation sparks a realization for Liche that Levi's quest within the 4th Division is connected to finding his younger brother. Hilda inquires if Liche has been vaccinated against the green glow disease, a malady that specifically impacts children across the continent. The Sacred Foundation provides complementary testing to determine a child's susceptibility to the disease. Hilda reveals that Rolf underwent hospitalization as part of these tests, and since then they've received no information about him. Despite their efforts, there has been no lead, and the Foundation claimed there was no child matching their description. Levi has dedicated himself to the quest of finding their younger brother. Loki's results eventually come out and it isn't good news. His hemopigments have decreased a great amount. Cursed paintings are injected with a special substance, hemopigments. Those pigments contained in the canvases cause paranormal phenomena. For this reason, when the paintings are torn and burned, they only need a little blood to be restored. Anytime Loki burned cursed paintings, his body absorbed the hemopigments from the canvas. If he has the ability to regenerate without having to drink blood, it's thanks to his high level of hemopigments, and that's why he's the only person that can reduce the paintings to ash. His hemopigments have been high enough until Liche came into the picture. On the other hand, Liche's hemopigments have increased, which leads Saxon to deduce a transfer from Loki to Liche. In this intriguing twist, the narrative unveils the mysterious man from the poster, bestowing upon him the name Vox. The revelation takes an unexpected turn as it turns out that Mr. Snow and Vox share a prior acquaintance, adding layers to their complex dynamic. The intricacies deepen further when Snow's sly acknowledgement of Taoyuan comes to light, revealing a game of feigned ignorance. As the story unfolds, the collaborative efforts between Vox and Snow intensify, especially with Snow's forthcoming official transfer to the headquarters for an impending assignment. Vox, pleased with the development, senses their proximity to a significant target. The plot takes an interesting turn, as Snow ponders the wisdom of personally investigating stolen information from the library. However, the dilemma arises due to the watchful eyes observing his meteoric ascent, prompting him to delegate the task to Vox to maintain covert maneuvering. This sets the stage for more intricacies and reveals in the unfolding narrative. Vox finds the place that the witch was buried, as Cho described, but for whatever reason the gravesite is empty, with only a single handcuff in a barrel of dug-out earth.